Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto learns the secret of Kage Bunshin. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. Simple. That's what it was supposed to be. It wasn't. Passing the Genin exam was not as easy Naruto thought it would be. First there was the written test. Oh, how he hated these kind of tests. Not that he was stupid or something, but written tests were a problem because he always got a much harder test than his classmates. Why? Because his teachers hated him, that's why. And they weren't the only ones. A lot of people hated him, disliked him or even ignored him. For a long time he wondered why they treated him that way, but after hours of thinking he couldn't understand or find a reason for their hatred. Written tests had always been a problem ever since he started in the academy. In his first year Naruto really tried hard to study and be an excellent student, but his teachers didn't give him a chance to get good grades, which he really wanted. He knew good grades were important even if nobody had told him. Whenever he asked a question they ignored him. When he tried to answer a question again they ignored him. Once during a test he dared to look at the questions on the test from the boy next to him. When he did he saw that they had different questions. The boy next to him had questions Naruto could answer while his own test was really complicated and practically impossible to answer even for a student of a higher year. After several months of trying to get good grades and not succeeding he simply stopped trying. Second, there was the practical exam where they had to show how good they were in kunai and shuriken throwing, taijutsu and ninjutsu. Now kunai and shuriken throwing was something he could do. He would be much better though if his kunai and shuriken were in prime condition, but unfortunately a new set of those were expensive and for an orphan like Naruto those were unaffordable. His taijutsu was a mess and he knew it, but it wasn't his fault really since nobody wanted to teach him the basic movements. Sure, he could hit someone, but a punch is much more than just a hit. A punch is a hit to a certain part of the body with the intention to really hurt the opponent. His chakra control was a mess also, and for the life of him he just couldn't do that stupid Bunshin no jutsu. No matter how many times he tried it wouldn't work. It drove him almost up the walls from frustration. All this resulted in his third failure to pass the Genin exam. Iruka-sensei didn't pass him because he couldn't do the necessary clone with the Bunshin no jutsu. He was really mad. Not at Iruka-sensei though. No, Iruka-sensei was one of the few people that treated him with some form of care. Other than Sandame Jichan and the people at Ichiraku Ramen he had no one he could call friend or family. So Naruto sat at the swing on the academy ground watching how his classmates got praised or congratulated by their parents. His heart ached a little seeing this scenery. "Naruto?" he heard a voice behind him say. When he turned around he saw his other teacher Mizuki say, "Are you okay, Naruto?" Mizuki asked with concern showing in his eyes. Naruto just kept silent, not really wanting to answer how he felt. "You know, Naruto, Iruka-sensei really feels bad about failing you again. He doesn't do it to pick on you. You know that, don't you? He really wants you to pass, but he doesn't want you to pass when you're clearly not ready. Being a shinobi is a life-threatening job." Mizuki-sensei tried to explain to Naruto. "I know that being a shinobi is a dangerous job and that people who aren't ready get themselves and their teammate killed. I know and understand that, but..." Naruto answered to his sensei. "But you wanted to pass, didn't you, Naruto?" Mizuki completed Naruto's argument. "Yes, I really wanted to pass this time," Naruto said, feeling more sad by the minute. He really did want to pass with his classmates. It was already the third time he tried after all. "What would you do if I told you there is still a chance to pass the exam?" Mizuki said with a mysterious look on his face. Naruto looked at his teacher with tears in his eyes. "Really, Mizuki-sensei? You mean it? There's still a way to pass? How? What must I do?" Naruto fired question after question towards Mizuki. "Yes, really, but this test is really special, Naruto. It's a test that's much harder than the normal exam, but there's no written exam though," Mizuki said to Naruto. Now this was music to Naruto's ears. An exam to become Genin but no written exam? A dream come true for him. Why didn't nobody tell him that? He would have taken that exam right away. "I take it, what's the exam?" Naruto said. "Well, you must succeed in taking a scroll from the Hokage's tower. That's the first part. Get in the tower and take the forbidden scroll, then get away with it without being seen. The second part is to learn one jutsu from the scroll. If you can do that you pass and you can become a Genin." Mizuki explained. "Forbidden scroll? Seems strange to have to steal that one." Bah, whatever, Mizuki-sensei is a sensei, thus he would know, wouldn't he? Naruto quietly asked himself. But hey, with his pranking skills he should be able to do that. Okay, got it. Take the scroll and learn a jutsu. That's it, right? That's all? Naruto asked just to be sure. Yes, that's it. Now after you take the scroll, go to the forest just north from the tower and I will meet you there later on to test you on the jutsu. Okay? Mizuki let Naruto know. Sure thing, Mizuki-sensei. I will definitely pass this time. Naruto exclaimed. That being said, Naruto left to make his preparations for the evening. He had a lot of planning to do after all. If he had stayed a little longer he would have seen the look of pure hatred and disgust on Mizuki's face. Got you now, you little demon. When you take that scroll, I will find you and dispose of you and get the scroll all for myself. Then I will be the strongest. Mizuki thought and left with an evil grin on his face. Naruto quietly made his way out of the tower with the scroll on his shoulders. Taking it was surprisingly easy. So now he made his way to the forest where he would learn one jutsu so he could pass the exam and be a genin after all this time. After running for about 20 minutes he found a large clearing in the forest which would be perfect to practice his chosen jutsu. Alright, now what jutsu should I choose? Naruto wondered out loud. He opened the scroll and looked at the first jutsu listed. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Amana Bunshin no Jutsu? I suck at those. Naruto said, disappointed. But what was written beneath the name of the jutsu caught his eye. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A highly advanced Bunshin jutsu that makes actual clones that can be used to assist in fights and learning. A Kage Bunshin clone is able to take orders and execute them without the help of the caster. A little known fact of this jutsu is that everything a Kage Bunshin learns the caster learns as well. This is highly useful because it cuts back time on learning a new jutsu. Naruto could see the use in that. If he learned that jutsu he would be able to learn faster and better. He would even have sparring partners at his own desire. Not to mention the pranks he could pull using that jutsu. Well, better start practicing before Mizuki-sensei arrives. Maybe I could learn another jutsu if I master this one fast enough. Naruto said, excited to learn a new jutsu. Several hours later Naruto was close to mastering the jutsu. He found it surprisingly easy compared to the usual Bunshin no jutsu. He briefly wondered why, but in the end he didn't really care. The Kage Bunshin no jutsu was 10 times better than the normal Bunshin no jutsu after all. Just when he was about to give it another shot he felt somebody arrive in the clearing. To his surprise it wasn't Mizuki but Iruka-sensei who stood before him. Iruka-sensei looked out of breath and a little pissed off. Hey Iruka-sensei, so it's you who came to take the test instead of Mizuki-sensei? Naruto asked. Iruka, who had prepared a whole speech for Naruto about idiotic things to do and responsibility, promptly lost all the words he wanted to say, or yell, at Naruto's question. What do you mean, Naruto? What test? What are you talking about? Do you know that half the shinobi population is searching for you? What were you thinking, stealing the forbidden scroll? Iruka asked his favorite, not that he would tell anyone though, student. Huh? Searching for me? Why? I'm just taking the extra exam to become a genin like Mizuki-sensei told me to. Naruto fired back at Iruka. Extra exam? There is no such thing as an extra exam, Naruto. Did Mizuki tell you to take the scroll? Iruka said while he started to piece the things together. Mizuki, is this your doing? He thought. Now Naruto was confused. Iruka-sensei didn't know about the exam and said that he stole the forbidden scroll. Naruto started to feel a little nervous about all this. Had Mizuki-sensei fooled him? But Mizuki-sensei told me this afternoon that if I succeed at taking the scroll and learning one jutsu from it that I would pass the exam. He even told me about this place and that he would meet me here. Naruto tried to explain to his favorite teacher. Just as I thought. He used Naruto to get to the scroll. That bastard had this all planned out. He would probably kill Naruto and then disappear with the scroll. Iruka thought, now understanding the situation. Just as he was about to warn Naruto of the danger they were in, a large number of kunai and shuriken came flying in their direction. He pushed Naruto out of the way but got hit with several kunai. Naruto looked at his teacher with fear in his eyes, showing that he didn't really understood what was going on. Ah, Iruka, now why am I not surprised that you found Naruto before I did? You always had a soft spot for him. Mizuki sneered at Iruka. Iruka looked at Mizuki while pulling out the kunai that wounded him. He looked calm, but inside he was panicking. There was no way he could beat Mizuki when he would have to protect Naruto. Mizuki would take advantage of the situation. Naruto, run and get out of here. Under no circumstance give Mizuki the scroll. Protect it with your life. This is a mission from me to you. Now go, hurry. Iruka yelled at Naruto. Naruto, who didn't want to leave his teacher alone while he was wounded, tried to protest, but one look from Iruka told him that there was no room for discussion. So he did what he was told. He ran out of the clearing as fast as his legs could go and found a place to hide. Mizuki, however, was no Chunin for nothing. He quickly tracked Naruto down and prepared to attack him, but Iruka arrived and placed himself between Naruto and Mizuki. Mizuki, who started losing his patience, started yelling at Iruka. Why do you protect him? He's just a demon. Don't you remember what that demon did to our village? To our friends and family? To your family? Don't you remember? I don't get it. Why put your life on the line for him? Mizuki spit out at Iruka. Stop it, Mizuki. You know that we can't talk about that. It's forbidden for a reason. Iruka pleaded with Mizuki, trying to prevent Mizuki from telling about the Kyuubi. If Naruto heard about that, there would be no telling what would happen. Mizuki, however, had no intention of holding back. For years he had tolerated the demon child. His tolerance had reached an end. It was time to end it all. He was leaving the village anyway, so he didn't care about the consequences. Naruto, do you know why everybody hates you? Why everybody treats you bad? Why nobody wants to be your friend? Of course you don't know, it's a S-class secret after all. Listen good, you little demon. 12 years ago the Yondaime didn't kill the Kyuubi, instead he sealed it into a baby. Can you guess who that baby was? Can you? Mizuki yelled at Naruto with a strange look of satisfaction on his face. Naruto, who had been silent just until now in the hope he could sneak away, suddenly started shaking and pieced the thing Mizuki said together. Me? He managed to say after several seconds. He was too shocked to believe it. It couldn't be true. No way that was possible. Was it? Yes, it was you. Yondaime sealed the Kyuubi inside you. That's why you're a demon. You're the Kyuubi reborn. For years I had to tolerate your existence, but tonight I finally will dispose of you like we should have done years ago. Prepare yourself, demon, Mizuki exclaimed. Mizuki took a large shuriken that was strapped on his back and threw it at Naruto with great speed. Naruto, however, was still shocked about what he had learned and didn't even notice the shuriken coming. Iruka, however, did move and tried to make it in time to save his student. Next thing Naruto noticed was a human-shaped shadow in front of him. Looking up, he saw Iruka protecting him from Mizuki's shuriken. Looking closer, he saw that the shuriken had already planted itself into Iruka's back. Never been shown such kind action toward him. Naruto couldn't understand Iruka's action. Why? Why did you protect me? You didn't have to save me? Why? Naruto asked his teacher while tears fell from his eyes onto his whiskered cheeks. I did it because you're my precious student. You and I are a lot alike. We're both orphans, we both grew up alone. I remember those difficult times so good it actually hurts thinking about it. Naruto, I failed you, didn't I? I should have helped you more. I should have known how you felt all these years. I'm so sorry, Naruto. I promise you that I will help you the best I can from now on. I promise I'll be there when you need me, Iruka said while wincing from the pain caused by the shuriken in his back. Naruto heard Iruka's words and realized that Iruka really cared about him. Looking beside Iruka, he saw Mizuki staring at the two of them with a look of pure disgust on his face. He looked at the man who had tried to kill him. The man who had injured his teacher. One of his precious people. He tried to kill me and Iruka-sensei. He hated me for years and calls me a demon. No way that I'm allowing that to continue. He's going down and I'm going to be the one who does it. Naruto furiously thought. Man, Iruka, you're even more pathetic than I thought. You actually care about him? He's a freaking demon, for God's sake. Mizuki sneered. I'm not a demon. I'm not Kyuubi. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, future Hokage of Konohagakure. And I'm the one who's going to kick your sorry ass. You'll be sorry for hurting my precious persons, Naruto said, full of confidence. Mizuki could hardly believe his ears. Here was a boy, not even a genin, just an academy student, and not a very good one at that, saying that he will be the one who defeats him. Him, a chunin. Ridiculous if you asked him. Sure, bring it on, demon. I'm going to finish you off anyway. You can make it more enjoyable for me if you struggle to survive. Mizuki stated, laughing at Naruto's actions and words. Naruto moved in front of his wounded sensei and started doing the hand seals he had practiced the whole evening. Iruka made some movements to try and stop him, but no avail. Forming the last seal, Naruto yelled out, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." One thing that could be said about Naruto is that once he decides to do something, he does it with full conviction and gives it everything he has. One moment there were only 3 people standing there. One blink of the eyes later a whole army of Narutos filled the area. Mizuki's eyes popped out of his head seeing the large number of Narutos standing there cracking their knuckles and sneering at him. If the situation wasn't so serious, Naruto would have laughed at Mizuki's shocked face. However, now was not the time for laughing. No, it was time to kick Mizuki's butt. And that's what Naruto was going to do. "You tricked me into stealing that scroll for you, then you insult me by calling me a demon. I don't care about either of those things, but you dared to hurt my precious person, and that is something I cannot and will not forget nor forgive. Everything single bit of pain Iruka-sensei felt, I'm going to give it back to you 1,000 times over. I'm going to show you a whole new meaning to the saying, in a world of pawn. Ready or not, here I come," Naruto said while keeping his eyes on Mizuki. "Bring it on, demon," Mizuki tried to say with more confidence than he had. Nobody would feel very confident when facing an army of orange-clothed adversaries, academy student or not. "Get him. Show no mercy to the traitor," Naruto ordered his clones while protecting Iruka. Now taijutsu is all about having style, grace and precision. But those things don't really matter when you're a mob of kicking and punching clones bent on kicking the guy into the next dimension. While Mizuki was without a doubt more talented and stronger in a one-on-one fight, facing these numbers there's not a lot that can be done. Sure, you defend and retaliate, but in the end you lose big time. Naruto and Iruka stood aside watching the fight, both amazed at what the clones were doing. They punched, they kicked, kneed and elbowed Mizuki all over his body. Didn't matter where. The only thing that mattered was the fact that the hit landed. "Naruto, don't you think that he has had enough? I mean, there's no way that he's going to get back up after such a beating. You don't want to kill after all, right?" Iruka asked with concern. Not concern for Mizuki. The guy had tried to kill both of them after all, but rather concern for his student and what would happen to him if he would end up killing Mizuki. "I guess so, but I'm not going to forgive him for hurting you, Iruka-sensei," Naruto said. Iruka smiled at his student and nodded as if saying that was quite alright. Naruto started moving toward Mizuki while all of a sudden he came to a halt. He turned around and looked toward Iruka with eyes filled with tears as he recalled what Mizuki had told him. During the fight he didn't really have time to think about all of that, but now the fight was over and he had calmed down a little bit, he couldn't help but worry. "Iruka-sensei? Am I really the Kyuubi? Am I really a demon?" Naruto asked Iruka, hoping that Iruka would deny the whole thing. Iruka couldn't help but feel sad for Naruto. Sad and worried how Naruto would react to what he was about to tell him. But he wouldn't let Naruto down. He promised him that he would be there for him and he would be no matter what. "No, Naruto, you're not the Kyuubi and you're certainly not a demon. While it is true that the Kyuubi is sealed inside you, you're every bit as human as I am. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, okay? And if they do, just ignore them. They're idiots who don't see the real Naruto." Iruka tried to comfort Naruto. "The real me? I don't even know what the real me is anymore. I'm tired of hiding behind pranks and stupidity. I'm tired of being lonely. Sometimes it hurts so much that I don't know what to do anymore," Naruto said on the verge of crying. "Konoha really has been terrible to you, hasn't it, Naruto?" Iruka thought. "Well, no more. I'm going to be there right next to you from now on. Naruto, I can't even begin to say how sorry I am. I truly am, but you're not alone, Naruto. You have me, Sandaime Hokage, and the people at Ichiraku. Naruto, I made you a promise, didn't I? A promise that when you need me I'll be there for you. And like you, I never break my promises. If you need me, no matter what or when, come find and I will help to best of my abilities," Iruka said in a voice which showed Naruto that he meant every word. Naruto looked at Iruka and couldn't help but he let a few tears fall and ran over to Iruka to give him the biggest hug he had given in his life. Though Iruka winced in pain, he returned the hug just as fierce. "Now, I think we should go see the Hokage and explain everything that's happened here. But before that I want you to close your eyes for a moment," Iruka said. Naruto didn't know why Iruka wanted him to close his eyes but did it anyway. He felt Iruka placing something on his forehead and heard Iruka telling him to open his eyes. Congratulations on making Genin, Naruto. You are now a proud shinobi of the leaf. Well done, I'm very proud of you. Iruka said, smiling at Naruto's face that showed how much those words meant for the new Genin. Naruto couldn't believe it, even though this test was all a big lie Iruka had passed him. He told him that he was now a Genin of the leaf and that he was proud of him. Those words meant the world to Naruto, and he secretly vowed to make sure that he would do everything in his power to hear those words again and again. Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage of the village of the leaf, smiled when he heard the words Iruka said to Naruto. He was very worried about his adoptive grandson. Naruto was one of his precious people after all, so when he saw and heard what had happened in the forest, he thought that Naruto would be crushed and just give up on everything. Once again Naruto surprised him by overcoming an obstacle no 12-year-old boy should need to overcome. He was also very proud of Iruka. He knew he made the right decision when he made him academy teacher. The man had a way with kids. Sarutobi also supported Iruka's decision to make Naruto a genin. The boy had learned the Kage Bunshin no jutsu in only a few hours. Not even Junin could accomplish such a feat, and he would be sure to tell Naruto just that. His heart ached when he thought about the secrets he had to hold about the young boy's life and past, but it was a necessary evil. The time will come when he's ready to hear all those secrets, but he made a promise not to tell until a certain time, and he would honor that promise. Just when he was about to remember the danger of those times and the consequences, the opened and his adoptive grandson and his teacher crashed into his office. Chuckling about the way of entering the room, he looked down at the ground where his visitors tried to pick themselves up. Naruto, who had carried a wounded Iruka and the scroll all the way from the forest to the tower, stood there sweating and panting, waiting to catch his breath so he could explain what had happened. Ji-chan, Naruto tried to say. It's okay Naruto, I know what happened. I saw and heard everything through my crystal ball here. No need to worry about explaining. And don't worry about getting punished as well. I know that Mizuki tricked you into taking the scroll. Sandaime said, trying to assure Naruto that everything was all right. Naruto slumped into the seat, releasing a breath he didn't know he held. He knew that his Ji-chan would never lie to him. If he said everything would be all right, then everything would be all right. Nevertheless, he had several questions for his Ji-chan. Ji-chan, can I ask you a question? About what happened? Naruto shyly tried to ask. Sandaime looked at him and knew that Naruto deserved some answers and decided to allow him some questions. Of course Naruto, but you will have to understand that there are several questions that I can't answer. Not because I don't want to, but because I made a promise not to tell until you're ready. Is that okay with you? The Sandaime Hokage said. Well, it's better than nothing, I guess, Naruto thought. Although he was a bit disappointed. Okay, I can live with that. My first question is, why did the Yondaime chose me to become the prison of the Kyuubi? Why didn't anybody tell me? I was so sad every time somebody hurt me. If I had known, maybe I would have understood it a little better. And do you know who my parents were? Naruto fired one question after another. The Sandaime Hokage simply puffed his pipe, looking for a way to answer Naruto without revealing too much to him. After a little moment of silence, he sat up straight in his chair, put his hand under his chin and looked Naruto right in the eyes. Naruto, Yondaime chose you because he knew that you were the only one who could hold the Kyuubi back. The sealing jutsu he used needed a vessel with a pure soul who the Kyuubi could not defeat. And what is more pure than a newborn baby? That's why he chose you. The reason why nobody told you is because I made a law. That law forbids anyone to talk about the fact that the Kyuubi is sealed inside you. I did this so that you could make friends among the children of your age. Only the adults know about the Kyuubi. I didn't tell you about all this because I hoped that it would remain a secret a bit longer. About your parents, yes, I knew them, and I'm very sorry about this. I cannot tell you about them at this point. Again, I'm very sorry. I understand that's the question you wanted answered more than anything. The Sandaime Hokage said in a sincere voice. Naruto looked torn between protesting and accepting the answers he got. But in a way he could understand his Ji-chan. Just like Naruto, he didn't want to break a promise no matter how much he wanted to. But still he wanted to know about his parents very much. But in the end he understood. He also knew that his Ji-chan would tell him everything he wanted to know when the time was right. Fine, I don't like it, but I guess I understand where you're coming from. But can you tell me one thing? Did they love me? Would they be proud of me? Naruto asked in a voice that clearly told all those in the room how afraid he was of the answer. Naruto, I can honestly say that I have never seen parents who loved their child as much as they loved you. Your mom was constantly talking about how she would teach you how to walk, how to write and read and all those kind of things. Your dad was always talking about how he would make you the best shinobi in all the elemental countries. They were proud of you then, and I'm more than sure that they would be very proud of you now. I know I'm very proud of you, Sandaime said with a smile on his face which made him look several years younger. Naruto couldn't be more happier than right now. Not only did his parents love him very much, they were also very proud of him then and now. And to top of that, his Ji-chan, the man who's called the Professor of Shinobi, said he was very proud of him. After all what had happened today, he couldn't be more happy, and it showed. He was literally beaming with happiness. Iruka and Sarutobi looked at their young charge and were truly happy that Naruto had found some source of happiness in his difficult life. They knew he needed these moments because his life would not be an easy one. Both of them promised once again to do everything they could to help the young genin. All right, I decided. Naruto yelled out, shocking both of them out of their thoughts. What have you decided, Naruto? Iruka asked. I decided that I will make my parents proud by becoming the best shinobi in all the lands, and then I'm going to take your job, Ji-chan. I will be Hokage one day. Not just any Hokage but the best of them all. Naruto proudly announced. Well, if there is anyone who can do it, Naruto, it is you. I don't doubt it for one moment. Sandaime said. But you're going to have to work very hard to accomplish such a thing. No more slacking off. You'll have to take training serious and work very hard every step of the way. Are you prepared to go all the way? To never give up no matter what? Sandaime said, hoping he would inspire Naruto to work hard. Naruto looked at the two men in the room with pure determination showing in his eyes. They could almost see a small fire burning in his eyes, waiting to become a major firestorm, showing he meant every word and that was willing to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. Very well, Naruto. I can see that you're willing to go all the way. When you need help, don't hesitate to ask. You know you're always welcome here. Now for your actions tonight, I'm going to reward you with the pay of a B-rank mission. You did stop a traitor and protected one of the most important scrolls of the village. But I will ask you to not to teach the Kage Bunshin no jutsu to anyone. It's a forbidden jutsu for a reason, Sandaime said to a stunned Naruto. Naruto couldn't believe what he just heard. A B-rank paycheck. Oh, the things he could buy with that amount of money. He could buy ramen for a long time, or a new shuriken and or kunai set. He would definitely have to think about this. He quickly promised not to teach the Kage Bunshin no jutsu to anyone. Maybe he should ask Iruka or Ji-chan to come with him so they wouldn't overcharge him like they always did. He decided to ask about it right away. Iruka-sensei or Ji-chan, could one of you come with me when I go shopping tomorrow? I would like to buy some new clothes and stuff. But most of the shops always give me crappy stuff or overcharge me. Naruto tried to explain. Sandaime and Iruka looked at Naruto and made a quick decision. Naruto, I'm free in the morning, so I will go with you. I will also have a talk with some of the shop owners about this. I will not accept such behavior towards one of our own. You should have told me about this sooner, Naruto. Why didn't you? Sandaime asked. Well, I didn't want to cause any more trouble than I already did, so I kept quiet. Naruto answered sheepishly. Naruto, next time come straight to me, okay? These are the sort of problem I want to know about. That's why I'm here for, remember? Sandaime said. Naruto nodded, saying he understood, and yawned. It had been a long day and an even longer night for him, so he was understandably tired. Seeing this, Sandaime dismissed both of them for the night, but not before telling Naruto that they would meet at 9 a.m. to go shopping. Iruka and Naruto bid each other good night, and Naruto promised to come by at Iruka's house to show his new clothes in the afternoon. Naruto had never slept so well in his entire life. After everything that had happened the day before, he felt strangely at peace with himself. Sure, he carried a demon inside him, not just any demon but the strongest of them all, but both Iruka and his Ji-chan assured him that he was a prison for the Kyuubi. In no way was he the Kyuubi or a demon, so he decided that everyone who said otherwise was just a jerk who wasn't worth his time. They ignored him, well, he would ignore them. Waking up at around 7 a.m., he had plenty of time to think about the things he wanted to buy today. At first he wanted to buy lots of ramen, but then he remembered his promise to become the world's best shinobi, and to do that he would need equipment and decent clothes. So that's what he decided to buy. Finally he would be able to get rid of that orange jumpsuit. Not that he hated the color orange, but it was a large risk for a shinobi to wear bright colors. How was he supposed to hide from his enemies while wearing an orange jumpsuit? So he needed some new cool clothes. So he patiently waited for the time where he would have to leave to meet with the Hokage. He was a bit nervous though. He didn't want to cause trouble after all. Well, maybe a little trouble would be fun, but too much trouble would be bad. Walking to the Hokage tower, he didn't meet anyone he knew, so he just kept walking, ignoring some crude remarks. Though he was used to them about now, they still hurt him when he heard them, but he had decided to ignore the fools who treated him badly, so that's what he did. Arriving at the tower, he went straight to his Ji-chan's office. Hearing the call to come in, he quickly opened the door and entered the room. "Ah, Naruto, right on time I see, very good," Sandame said. He was a little surprised to see Naruto right on time, but he supposed that Naruto was very excited to go shopping, so he understood. Taking his hat from his desk, he walked toward Naruto and guided him into the hallway, where he told his secretary that he would be unavailable for the morning. She nodded and bid him a nice morning. "So are you ready, Naruto? What do you need?" "Don't worry about the money, I have it right here," Sandame said to an very hyper Naruto. "Well, I need some new clothes. Can't be a ninja with orange clothes, so that's what I want to do first, if that's alright with you. After that it depends how much money I have left. If have enough left, then I would like to buy a new set of kunai and shuriken," Naruto told him. Sandame nodded and started to lead the way towards the shinobi centrum of town. Naruto had been there a few times, but never to actually buy something. All his other stuff came from second-hand stores which were cheaper. So he was really lucky the Hokage wanted to accompany him. Seeing his adopted grandson happy smile warmed Sarutobi's heart more than anything these past years. Sure, his actual grandson made him smile too often, but Naruto's smile was so much more special to him since it was a true smile and not the fake smile of his mask that he put on every day. Arriving at the shop where he knew that Naruto would be treated right, he had a small smile of anticipation on his face. He wondered how Naruto would react when he saw a true shinobi store. Getting Naruto's attention and showing him the way in, he quickly turned around to see the look on Naruto's face. He wasn't disappointed at all. Naruto's face showed a look of wonder and astonishment. You read his thoughts without trying. "Wow," was the only word that came out of Naruto's mouth, but his face said the rest, and that was more than enough for the shopkeeper and Sandame to softly laugh at Naruto. Naruto looked inside the large store and saw rows upon rows of shinobi equipment, from simple clothes to shuriken and kunai. A large section of the store was reserved for equipment like katana, knives, weights and much more stuff, some of which he didn't even know the name of. He felt like he could get lost in this place and probably could spend hours looking at everything he didn't know or had heard about but never seen. For a young genin like himself, this truly was the place to be, there was no doubt about it. Seeing that Naruto was lost in his own little world, Sarutobi went to greet his old-time friend Masahiro Hideki. They had fought together in the war when they were still very young and had a mutual respect for each other. Hideki was one of the few persons who actually had permission to call him Sarutobi instead of Hokage-sama. "Hello Hideki-san, how are you this morning?" asked Sarutobi. "I'm doing very well, Hokage-sama. Thank you for asking," replied Hideki. "Hideki-san, how many times have I told you to address me by my name instead of my title?" Sarutobi asked jokingly. "Now one more time than last time, Sarutobi-san," Hideki answered cheekily. Naruto, who had stopped staring at all the things in the store, now stood beside the Sandame looking amazed at the conversation. Nobody he knew so far addressed his Ji-chan by his name and got away with it. "Naruto, I would like you to meet an old-time friend and one of the best shinobi I have ever had the privilege to fight side by side with, Hideki-san." "Hideki-san, this is Uzumaki Naruto, a young academy graduate looking for a new look and equipment," the Sandame Hokage said, introducing them to each other. Naruto quickly showed his respects to the man and introduced himself. Hideki looked at him and smiled, saying it was a pleasure to meet him. Now once again Naruto was amazed. Clearly this man knew about the Kyuubi, but he treated Naruto like he was just an everyday customer. "Well, young Naruto, tell what you're looking for and I'll help you along the way," Hideki kindly offered. "Well sir, I would need pants, shirts, shoes and the like. I would like them to be durable and in dark colors if possible. If I have enough money left, I would also like a set of new kunai and shuriken." Naruto said looking at Hideki. Very well, no problem with that. I have everything you need. Well, let's get busy, shall we? First, pants and shirts. Would you like long pants or shorts? How about the shirts, should they have long sleeves, short sleeves or no sleeves? Hideki asked Naruto. Long pants, sleeveless shirt please. Naruto confirmed. He could always wear an extra jacket in case he needed one. Now he was here, he could buy it at the same time. He also wanted gloves that would protect his hands and fingers. Do you have gloves available, sir? Not fingerless gloves but normal ones? And do you have shoes that cover the whole foot instead of exposing the normal sandals? Also, if possible, I would like a Junin-style vest. Naruto asked Hideki, who was picking out pants and shirts. Looks like young Naruto knows what he wants, isn't it, Sarutobi-san? Sure thing, kid. I got all those things you asked for. No worries. Why don't go look for a vest and shoes you like while I get you a pair of pants and shirts? Hideki said with a smile on his face. Some short minutes later, Naruto came back with a pair of shoes which had a steel tip that protect his foot but that would also inflict lots of damage to an enemy shinobi when kicked. Naruto never understood why almost every shinobi wore sandals. Must be some tradition, he mused. His vest was a black version of a Junin vest. It was made out of Kevlar and offered protection against kunai and shuriken. It also had several pockets for storage use. While Naruto had been out choosing his stuff, Hideki had picked out some pants and shirts for Naruto to try on. After a few minutes, Naruto chose a pair of black pants and a pair of sleeveless dark blue shirts. He also had found the gloves he wanted. Just like his vest, the gloves were made out of Kevlar and would offer some protection for his fingers and hands. Looking at himself in the mirror, he could help but think that he just made his first step towards achieving his goals. While Naruto and Hideki were busy, Sarutobi was looking for a present for Naruto. He felt that Naruto deserved some help and being Hokage was a well-paid job, so he didn't mind spoiling Naruto a little. He found a nice set of 10 kunai and shuriken which he knew Naruto would be very happy with, so that's what he decided to buy. Naruto, who didn't know how much a B-rank mission paid exactly, went over to ask his Ji-chan about it. Maybe he still had some money left to buy some extra equipment. That would be so cool, he thought. Ji-chan, just how much is the pay for a B-rank mission? I forgot to ask. Do you think I have enough to buy all these clothes? Naruto asked, a little worried. Sarutobi, who hadn't seen Naruto change into his new outfit, looked at Naruto and he could see the making of an incredible shinobi. The clothes Naruto picked out were made for him. They fitted nicely but did not cling to him. All in all, he looked like a strong shinobi to be. You have nothing to worry about, Naruto. A B-rank missions pay about $750, so you have more than enough to buy all these clothes. And you should not worry about a new kunai and shuriken set because I'm giving them to you as a present for graduating. So you still have lots of money left, but I would advise you to put some of it away in case of an emergency later. Sandame explained to Naruto. Really, a present? For me? Wow, thank you Ji-chan, you're the best. But wasn't the money also a gift? If it is, I can't accept another present, Ji-chan. And I didn't know missions paid that much, Naruto said. Sarutobi looked at Naruto and explained that the money wasn't a gift but was rightfully his since he defeated a traitor and returned an important scroll. So the village paid for the B rank. He also explained the way the mission ranking worked and how much each type of mission paid. So with still lots of money to spend and a large part to put aside for a rainy day, Naruto asked for advice on what he should need or buy. Well, I always found sealing scrolls very useful. You can seal lots of stuff inside, and because it's just a scroll, it's easy to carry around. Very useful if you have to take long-term missions. No need to carry a large backpack, just seal everything in scroll or two and you're done. Hideki offered some advice on what to buy. Naruto immediately liked the idea of sealing scrolls. He thought it was a very good idea to have some of those. He could already see the use of them. He didn't have much things, but some things he didn't want stolen or destroyed, so by sealing them and carrying the scroll with him, his possessions were safe. He bought 5 of them since they weren't really expensive. After having been explained how to use them, he also bought some explosive tags which he also wanted to try one day. After thanking Hideki for about 5 minutes, he was told that he was always welcome in the shop, so Naruto promised that he would definitely come back and buy stuff. Naruto and Sandame left the shop and went back towards the tower where they would have lunch together. Naruto had some questions about training and Sandame had promised to answer them the best he could. When they reached the tower, Sarutobi told his secretary that he was not to be disturbed until after lunch. She quickly nodded, showing she understood, and went back to organizing a pile of paperwork that had to be processed later that afternoon. Seeing the amount of work he would have to do later, Sarutobi almost told her that he would not be available for the rest of the day, but he knew that if he did he would have twice as much work to do tomorrow. So he sighed slightly and went into his office with Naruto closely following him. After a quick lunch, Sarutobi told Naruto that he could ask his questions now. Naruto promptly started. Okay, I have several of them. First, why is it that I can perform the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu so easily but I can't do the normal Bunshin no Jutsu? What should I focus on? Should I focus on learning ninjutsu or taijutsu? Also, I really don't like the academy taijutsu style. Aren't there other styles I can learn? Can you teach me? Naruto fired question after question towards his Ji-chan. Sarutobi smiled and began to answer Naruto's question. Okay Naruto, one question at a time. I believe the reasons why you can do the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu so easily because you have a massive amount of chakra. The Kage Bunshin no Jutsu requires that, while the normal Bunshin no Jutsu only needs a small amount of chakra. Now because of your massive amount of chakra, your chakra control is bad. This is normal, so don't worry. All you have to do is practice your chakra control and you'll be fine. Now for your other questions, I would suggest you to practice your chakra control before everything else. The reasons is that if you have good control, learning new jutsus will be much easier. Also, good control means that you won't waste chakra when you do a jutsu. Now for your taijutsu, it's possible that this style isn't suited for you. That sometimes happens, so you'll have to learn some other style. Unfortunately, I can't teach you, not because I don't want to, but because that would show favoritism, which I will not allow, not by myself or others. I hope you understand, but there is a way to study all of this without my help. Sandame patiently told Naruto. Naruto looked somewhat disappointed but wondered what the other way was. He thought about it but couldn't find a way. Sarutobi, seeing Naruto didn't quite understood what he was trying to say, explained to him that now that he had graduated from the academy, he could access the shinobi part of the Konoha library. There he would find several books on chakra control and much more. Of course, the really good stuff was not stored in the library but inside a special library which was only accessible to Junin level shinobi, but for basic stuff the Konoha library would be enough. So you're saying that if I go to the library and look for books or scroll on chakra control and taijutsu, I could find what I'm looking for? Naruto asked wearily. Sandame nodded and told Naruto that he would have to come see him the day after tomorrow to meet his Junin sensei. This confused Naruto slightly because he thought they would be put into three-man teams. When he asked about it, Sarutobi told him that Naruto was a special case because they had already made the teams the afternoon of graduation. So now they had one genin that didn't have a team. Seeing his dejected face, Sarutobi told Naruto that his sensei had especially asked for him and that he should be very glad because his sensei was very strong. After hearing that, Naruto's mood went up and he happily left the office, thanking his Ji-chan again for the great gift and day. He quickly went to Iruka's house, but seeing Iruka wasn't home, he decided to pay a visit to the library. If you had told Naruto a couple of days ago that he would be eager to visit the library, he would have laughed at you and telling that there was no way he would ever go there. But now that he knew about the shinobi section, he was kind of excited to see all those books. Arriving at his destination, he quickly entered, ignoring the looks he got from the lady at the desk. Since he had graduated, she couldn't forbid him from entering anyway. So he went all the way to the shinobi section looking for some books or scroll that could help him out with his chakra control problem. Seeing the large amount of books and scrolls, he sighed, knowing this would take some time. Suddenly he remembered about how he could use the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to help him. He looked around and seeing he was alone, he quickly made 3 clones and ordered them to help looking. Each one of them went to a different shelf and started their search. After about 10 minutes, Naruto had found a book on sealing which at first he disregarded, but then he remembered those useful sealing scroll he bought earlier that day. This could be an interesting subject to study, so he decided to put it aside. After that, he didn't find anything remotely useful to him. Suddenly he heard a clone yelling that he had found a book on chakra control and several exercises for improving your control. He made his way over to the clone and looked at the book in front of him. The title read, Chakra Control, How to Have It. It was just what he needed, so he took an empty scroll and a pencil out of his pouch and told the clone to start copying down the exercises. The clone nodded and started scribbling everything down. Naruto, however, went looking for the other clones and found them still searching for something useful. As the clones would call if they found something, Naruto told one clone to start copying the book on ceiling and dismissed the remaining clone. Then he went to look for some books about taijutsu. After 10 minutes he gave up. There was nothing in the shinobi section about taijutsu except the style they taught at the academy. On an impulse he decided to search in the civilian section. Maybe there were civilians who wanted to study taijutsu of some form just for fun. Quickly finding the right shelf, he looked around and found what he was looking for. Several books on something called martial arts. Taking a closer look, he saw that it was exactly what he was looking for. The book had pictures that showed how to move. It had diagrams with several katas that he could practice. He selected two books called Taekwondo and Aikido. They were listed as really old fighting styles that nobody really used anymore, but that was perfect in Naruto's opinion. Since they weren't used much anymore, they would be unpredictable, or so he hoped. He went to the reception desk and gave them to the lady so he could borrow them. Shinobi scroll or books couldn't leave the library, but since these books were from the civilian section, there wasn't any problem. After getting his books, he went to see his clones that were copying everything down. One clone had just about finished copying the different exercises for chakra control, and the other clone had copied the first 4 chapters of the ceiling book. Satisfied, he dismissed them and put the scroll in his pocket and left the library. Since it was still pretty early in the afternoon, he decided that he might as well start practicing on his chakra control and his taijutsu. He went to the clearing where he had learned the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and got ready. Still remembering what he had learned about the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he prepared to make about 30 clones. Seconds later, there were 31 Narutos standing in the clearing. Alright, listen up. I want you guys to make 3 groups of 10 clones. Group 1 will be with me practicing chakra control. Group 2 will take the book on Taekwondo and start on that. And Group 3 will start on the Aikido book. Go! He ordered his small army of clones. They quickly divided and went to a free spot in the clearing. Naruto took his copies out of his pocket and started reading. He realized that the book was a little more advanced than he first had thought, but in the end he didn't really care. Reading about tree walking, he got really excited. He didn't know such a thing was possible. This would be so cool. After reading how it was supposed to be done, he told his clones and they each picked out a tree. The book said that instead of immediately starting to run up the tree, it was better to first lay down in front of it and placing his feet onto the tree. Then concentrating the necessary chakra into his feet so he would stick onto the tree. So that's what he and his clones did. While he was doing that, the other 2 groups of clones were busy reading about the martial art style he had chosen to learn. Taekwondo was an offensive style that focused on kicks and punches, while Aikido was a defensive style using the movements and strength of the opponent to grab, hold or throw the opponent. Each group started practicing the various moves like ordered. After about an hour of trying to stick onto the tree with his feet, Naruto and his clone got confident that they could do it. So Naruto decided to try his luck. He took some distance and ran towards the tree while focusing chakra to his feet. The clones watched as their boss reached the tree. They saw him make 5 steps up the tree before he came crashing down. Then they started laughing at his misfortune. Naruto scolded at them but told them to start practicing instead of laughing their ass off at his expense. After hours of practicing, Naruto and his clones made it to about halfway up the tree. It was getting dark, so he told himself that this was enough for today. He got up and looked at his clones still practicing their different assignments. Alright, that's enough for today. I want you guys to dispel group per group. First Group 1, then 2 and 3. Naruto said. Nodding, Group 1 dispelled themselves and a rush of information into his brain made Naruto a little disoriented. He didn't know that would happen, but it was over in about 2 seconds. Immediately he felt that his control had gone up. He looked at the tree and started running towards it. Reaching it, he just kept running onto it without any problem. He went halfway up the tree and stood there as if he had been doing it for years. He was amazed. When he dispelled the clones, their experience transferred to him, and this made tree walking so much easier than before. The Kage Bunshin no Jutsu truly was an amazing jutsu. Reaching the ground again, he dispelled Group 2 and 3 and once again gained the things they had learned. He now knew several of the basic moves of both styles and he realized this would take much more time than tree walking to master all the moves and katas, but he had time so he didn't mind. After a quick lunch at Ichiraku's he went to sleep with a smile on his face, feeling very proud and content about the things he had learned today. Naruto nervously made his way towards the Hokage Tower to meet his new sensei. He was really curious who his sensei would be, what she would be like. Hopefully they will get along. He made a promise to be on his best behavior so he could make a good impression. Yesterday he had spent the whole day practicing the tree walking exercise and the basic movement of head taijutsu styles he had chosen to learn. Tree walking was going really well in his own opinion. Yesterday he had succeeded in walking up and down the tree for about 2 hours without falling down. He was pretty much sure that he had almost mastered that part of the chakra control exercises. Next would be the walking on water exercises according to his scroll. He really wanted to try that one, but he made himself promise to do one thing at a time so he was sure to master the basics. Greeting the lady at the desk, he said he was expected to meet his sensei here today. She looked into the reservation book and saw his name marked down. She told him he was right on time and that he could see the Hokage. So Naruto knocked and waited for the call to enter. Hearing permission to enter, he quickly opened the door and went inside. "Ah, Naruto, good morning. How have you been?" Sandaime asked, smiling at seeing Naruto. "Hey Ji-chan, I'm fine thanks. How are you?" "I've been great. I went to the library just like you said and found this book on tree walking and water walking. It was really interesting. I almost got the tree walking exercise mastered. I practiced a lot yesterday," Naruto told in a voice full of pride. Sarutobi was surprised to say the least. Tree walking was not an easy thing to learn. More so to learn from a book. That was really a job well done. "Well done Naruto, I'm really proud of you. To master it so fast you must have practiced really hard. Have you found something on taijutsu?" Sandaime congratulated Naruto. Eager to impress his Ji-chan, he told all about his trip to the library, the things he had found and his training the day before. Just when he was about to tell about planning the water walking exercise, somebody knocked on the door. Knowing that this was probably his sensei, Naruto quickly quieted down and looked at his Ji-chan. "Enter," Sarutobi called out. The door opened and a young woman entered the office. Naruto gulped and turned his head so he could see just what his sensei looked like. First thing he noticed was that his sensei was a very beautiful young woman. She wore a brown trench coat, a short dark brown skirt above a fishnet cloth which covered the rest of her body. She had a look of pure mischief in her eyes and her hair was a shade of purple that really looked great on her. All in all, Naruto had to say he found her very beautiful. "Good morning Hokage-sama," the young woman said, slightly bowing to show her respect. "Ah, good morning Anko-san. Glad to see you in such good spirits. I would like to introduce you to your young student. Anko, this is Uzumaki Naruto," Sandaime said. "Naruto, I would like you to meet your Junin sensei Mitarashi Anko," Sandaime said, introducing Anko to Naruto. Naruto jumped up from his chair and formally introduced himself to his teacher, which she did as well. "Well, since I have lots of work to do today, I'm sure the two of you can get to know each other better on your own. Naruto, listen to your sensei. She's a very accomplished kunoichi and will teach you a lot. I will see you soon, okay?" Sandaime said while dismissing the both of them. Student and teacher nodded their goodbye and stepped into the hallway. "Well Gaki, let's go someplace where we can get to know each other." "I know, let's go to the clearing you practiced in yesterday." "Hope you can keep up Gaki, because if you're more than 5 minutes late there will be hell to pay," Anko said with a slightly sadistic smile. Naruto wondered how she knew where he trained, but hearing something about hell to pay if he was late, he quickly followed his sensei, hoping he could keep up with her. When he arrived at the clearing he was out of breath and panting very much, but he had made just in time. Anko looked at him with a look that said, "Well done, you're in time." She sat down and motioned to Naruto to do the same. "Now, I'm sure you have questions about almost everything, but before that we'll take some time to talk with each other, okay?" "Well, I'll go first. As you know now, my name is Mitarashi Anko. I'm 24 years old and I specialize in assassination and interrogation. My favorite food is dango and green bean tea. This is the first time I accepted to teach, so it's going to be new to both of us." "Okay, your turn." Anko finished with her part of the introduction. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I'm 13 years old and just finished the academy. My favorite food is ramen from Ichiraku's. My hobbies used to be playing pranks and causing trouble, but since I graduated I made the promise to become the greatest shinobi in all the lands, so now I'm training to reach that goal. My likes are my precious people and my dislikes are the people who treat me bad. My dreams are to make my parents and Sandame Ji-chan proud, to become the best shinobi and finally to become Hokage myself. Naruto said with conviction. Anko nodded, seeming to be very satisfied with Naruto's introduction. She looked at him and couldn't be more happy that he got rid of his orange-colored jumpsuit. His new outfit suited him and it looked stylish and professional. Very good, I'm sure we will get along fine. Now I'm going to answer any questions you may have as long as I have the answers. If I don't know the answer I will get back to you on that question when I do have an answer. Anko told Naruto. Okay, that's fine. My first question would be, why did you accept to teach me? Secondly, what will you teach me? Will we do missions? Assassination and interrogation sounds cool, but will I have to learn those as well? Naruto quickly asked his questions. Those are very good questions, Naruto. Let's see, the reason I accepted to teach you is because you and I are a lot alike. I will not tell you the full story yet since that's very personal, but let's say that like you I'm not very well liked by a large part of Konoha. Also, I have seen you train from time to time and I can see a lot of potential, so it would be a shame if we didn't train you to be the best shinobi you can be. What I will teach you will depend on you. What I mean is that we will work on the things you need the most. When those things are learned we will focus on things you would like to learn. Now mind you, I'm not an all-knowing person, so some things you'll have to learn on your own, but I will help where I can. Now concerning missions, we won't do any of those for at least 6 months. Before you start protesting, I'm doing this so we can use these months to fully devote them to training. You will see the logic in this soon enough. Where we will train is a surprise. Anko said, answering Naruto's questions. Naruto, who was about to start protesting about the no missions thing, quickly shut up and started thinking. 6 months of pure training would allow him to become stronger and more advanced, so that was not a bad idea. Besides, he had heard about the so-called missions genins were forced to do. Learning and studying what he wanted with his teacher's help sounded really cool, so that was okay too. In the end he couldn't see any faults in his teacher's words, so he quickly nodded, showing his agreement. Glad you agree, Naruto. I promise that you won't regret it. Now yesterday I saw you training using the Kage Bunshin no jutsu. Can you explain me why? By the way, nice work on the tree walking exercise. Very well done. Anko asked. Well, before I kicked Mizuki's ass I had learned the jutsu from the Forbidden Scroll, and the scroll had some instructions that said that everything a Kage Bunshin learns the caster learns as well. So I made enough clones and told them to separate in groups and practice. That way training and learning goes much faster and I can learn several things at the same time. Naruto explained to Anko. Now this was new to Anko. That the Kage Bunshin no jutsu had such an effect was amazing to her. It would open new possibilities for training Naruto and even for her own training. Never would she have thought such a thing was possible. She could already imagine the sort of training she would have to make for Naruto. This promised to be even more exciting than she originally thought. Amazing. I didn't know this was possible, but I can see the advantage in using this jutsu. This is going to be very useful. I also saw you practicing 2 different styles of taijutsu that I have never seen before. What are they? Anko continued. Well, the academy style of taijutsu never worked well for me, and since I don't have a family taijutsu style like others, I looked in the library but I didn't find any taijutsu book in the shinobi section. I guess people want to keep their family taijutsu a secret. But I found these book in the civilian section. They're ancient style that nobody uses anymore. So I found them interesting because they would be unpredictable and unknown to most shinobi. Naruto said, explaining his reasons to learn those styles. This is the so-called dead last of his class? These are very well out-thought decisions. He analyzed his options and came to a very accurate solution. Those idiots at the academy just didn't see this boy's potential. Well, I make sure that they regret not looking underneath the underneath. Anko mused, hearing Naruto finishing his explanation. Well done, Naruto. You certainly picked out some very useful and powerful taijutsu styles. If you can master them, you'll be a force to be reckoned with. Now, let me explain some things about the training we'll be doing in the next 6 months. Anko said. Naruto, who was slightly blushing from all the praise he got from his sensei, listened very carefully to what his sensei was about to say. She told him that they would leave the village for 6 months to a place so would show tomorrow. Then she proceeded to tell him a raw form of training schedule which they would be able to change when necessary. The first 2 months they would focus on his chakra control and his taijutsu since these two things needed the most work right now. The following 2 months would be dedicated to ninjutsu training and some weapon training. In the final 2 months of training they would focus on mission training and the likes. On top of all that he would be free to study anything he wanted but only after they finished the training for the day. Anko would also teach him about the several shinobi clans in Konoha. Every month she would report his progress to the Sandaime so he would know what they were working on. Naruto nodded knowing this was going to be intense, but the more he thought about it the more excited he became. After these 6 months he would defiantly be much stronger than ever. He couldn't wait to start. Alright, that's it for today Gaki. Prepare yourself because tomorrow your training starts. You might want to go say goodbye to Hokage-sama and Iruka since you won't see them for 6 months. I'll meet you at the main gate tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Bring everything you think you might need. Don't worry about books or stuff like that, I will be able to get those for you when I make my report to Hokage-sama each month. See you tomorrow and don't be late, got it? Anko said before leaving. Naruto nodded promising he would be on time and bid her goodbye. Thinking that saying goodbye to his precious people wasn't a bad idea he went back to the village where he started searching for Iruka. Finding him at his home, he quickly explained everything and told Iruka that they would meet in 6 months' time. Iruka wished him a successful training and told him he would look forward to see how strong Naruto had become in those 6 months. Naruto promptly challenged Iruka to a sparring match when he got back. Iruka accepted laughing at Naruto's challenge. Next he went to Ichiraku's. While he was there he had several bowls of ramen knowing he probably wouldn't have the chance to eat ramen for 6 long months. The owner of Ichiraku and his daughter wished him well and told him that they would miss him very much. He then went to say goodbye to his Ji-chan who also wished him well and told him to study hard so he could become Hokage. Hurry up and become strong Naruto. I can't stand this amount of paperwork anymore. It's driving me nuts. Sandaime said laughing to Naruto. Naruto laughed as well and while leaving asked why Sandaime didn't use the Kage Bunshin no jutsu to do paperwork. Sarutobi stood there looking at the closed door shocked beyond belief that Naruto had given him the solution to one of his biggest problems. He also berated himself for not thinking about this years ago. Telling himself that he would reward Naruto when he came back he quickly used the Kage Bunshin no jutsu to make several clones and attacked the remaining paperwork for the day. Naruto woke up at 5 a.m. feeling a little nervous about the start of his training but he had a good feeling about his sensei. She looked strict but fair and he was sure that she would teach him a lot of things. He had everything packed last night. He sealed almost everything of value into his storage scrolls so they wouldn't get stolen or damaged by some hateful burglar. He packed all his new clothes, his new shuriken and kunai set. He also took his old ones just to be sure. He packed the copy he had made of the sealing book since he really wanted to learn about sealing. At 5:40 a.m. he closed the door, locked it and went towards the main gate without looking back. He arrived with almost 10 minutes to spare so his sensei would be pleased. Anko, who had also said goodbye to some friends, woke up with a splitting headache. She went to see her best friend Yuhi Kurenai and told her about Naruto and how she would be training him. She also told her how much she had learned about Naruto just by spending a few hours with him. Kurenai was glad to see her friend happy and excited for the first time in a long time. Though she didn't personally know Naruto, she never hated him for carrying the Kyuubi. She privately thought that Naruto really was a hero in his own way and she respected him for never giving in to the hate. After talking and drinking the whole night, Anko went home knowing she would have to get up early. So when she arrived at the main gate at 5:59 a.m. her headache still hadn't disappeared, which made her a little irritated. Seeing Naruto standing there looking all fresh and eager to start, she couldn't help but think that maybe it wasn't a good idea of her to meet this early. Alright Gaki, let's go. Oh, some advice you might want to remember. Never drink too much sake when you have to get up before noon. You'll regret it just like I am now. Anko said softly, trying not to worsen her headache by talking loudly. Naruto nodded with a small smile and followed his sensei. He really didn't understand grown-ups and their likes of alcohol. What was so good about alcohol anyway? After some time they reached a huge fence with a gate which was locked with a huge lock. Anko stopped in front of the gate, reached into her backpack, pulled out some sort of weird key and opened the gate. This, Gaki, is the Forest of Death. It's a very dangerous place for people to be in. It's also one of my favorite playing grounds. There are 44 gates like this one, so you can imagine how big this place is. The whole forest is divided into several areas. We will stay in an area that is relatively safe. Once inside, we'll head out east where there's a good place to camp. Alright, follow me. Anko motioned Naruto to follow her. They traveled for about 4 hours until they came at the place Anko mentioned earlier on. There was a small river, a large open place suited for training, and a cave where they could sleep sheltered from rain and wind. Anko went inside the cave and dropped her backpack and took out a scroll and pencil before coming back out of the cave into the clearing. She motioned to Naruto to come and sit next to her. Alright, yesterday I sort of explained how we would divide these next 6 months. Like I said, the first 2 months we'll be focusing on chakra control and taijutsu training. The day starts at 6 a.m, at that time you will start with stretching and some running. Then at 7 a.m. we'll have breakfast till 7:30 a.m. Following breakfast you'll make as much clones as you can and order half of them to practice tree walking and water walking. The other half will work on taijutsu katas. During that time you and I will spar using the styles you have chosen. After lunch we'll work on stealth and tracking methods, making traps and human anatomy. After that you're free to study or practice what you want, and I'll help you however much I can. Sounds okay to you? Anko finished explaining. Naruto quickly agreed, saying he couldn't wait to get started on all this interesting stuff. Anko chuckled, pleased that he didn't have any comment or remarks on the training schedule she had made the night before. Since it was almost time for lunch, she decided to let Naruto catch some fish that they could prepare over a fire. Naruto, who had never been camping before, eagerly went over to the river to try and catch some fish. Anko smiled when she looked at him having fun trying to catch a fish. After lunch she asked him what kind of things he would like to learn while they were here. It was better that she knew beforehand so she could prepare to help him in any way. Well, I really want to learn about sealing. The sealing scrolls one bought at Hideki-san's store are really useful, and he told me that you can do a lot of things with seals, so I really want to learn about that. Also, I saw this really cool katana, but since I don't know how to use it I didn't buy it, but I think I would like to learn how to use one. What I also want to learn is how to make a jutsu. I know that there are a lot of jutsu, but learning to make my own would be so cool. Since I don't have any family jutsu to learn, I would like to start making Uzumaki family jutsus so that I can teach them to my kids later. I want to make the Uzumaki name known throughout the world, Naruto said. Anko whistled at some of the things Naruto wanted to learn. Sealing and jutsu making were a field of study that could take years. When she told him that, Naruto just shrugged and told her that he would do it anyway. He reminded her that he had hundreds of clones at his disposal to help with the studying. Seeing the truth in that statement, she told him that she would try to get him some books on both topics. Since she was a Junin, she had access to the shinobi library in the Hokage Tower. She was sure that she could find some interesting books for him. The rest of the afternoon they talked about several things like how to become a Junin, how the missions worked, and so on. The next morning Naruto got up at 5:30 a.m. and got ready to start training. He woke up Anko like he was told to, although she hadn't told him about the fact that she wasn't a morning person. His jaw still hurt when he left the cave. So at 6 a.m. he started stretching, and after that he did a large number of laps around the clearing like Anko ordered him to. This would build up stamina, which was necessary when fighting for a longer time. After breakfast he made about 100 clones. Anko ordered them to divide into 4 groups and assigned each group to a task. Group 1 got tree walking, Group 2 got water walking, Group 3 got taekwondo, and Group 4 went on to aikido training. While the clones started their assignment, Naruto and Anko started sparring. Anko taught him that there was a difference between punching someone and hitting someone. Punching someone meant that he aimed at a specific part of the human body. For example, the throat, solar plexus, groin. Naruto winced at that one while Anko smiled. And several other places of the human body. The exercise was that she would call out a place for him to target, and then he would have to try to hit her. After that the roles would change and she would attack and he would have to defend. Needless to say that when the training was over, Naruto had several bruises and ached all over. I know it hurts now, Naruto, but soon you will be able to stop all these attacks without even trying. It will become an automatic reaction to protect those places. When you'll be able to do that, then we will start on actual sparring. Anko tried to explain to a hurting Naruto. I know, but it doesn't change the fact that it hurts. Naruto answered cheekily. Maybe he should add medical jutsu to the list. Although he always healed fast now that he thought about it. This time it was Anko who took care of Diner. She had caught 2 rabbits and started to prepare them. Naruto watched as she skinned the rabbit, started to remove the insides. He asked if he could have the skin, which he planned to save to make some warm clothes or something for the winter. Anko agreed with this sort of planning and happily allowed Naruto to keep the rabbit skin. After dinner, Naruto started to read up on his notes on sealing and Anko started reading his Aikido book. So every day Anko and Naruto trained together and Naruto was making excellent progress on his chakra control. After a week of water walking and tree walking, Anko told him that he had sufficiently mastered those 2 exercises. She proceeded to teach him a more advanced way of practicing chakra control. She told him to take a kunai and place it in the palm of his hand, then he was to focus his chakra in a way that would lift the kunai in the air and keep it there for a period of time. At first his kunai went up in the air, but after a few seconds his kunai would start moving toward the left or the right and fall down on the ground. After figuring out that he was supposed to move his chakra in such a way that his kunai remained in the middle of his hand, things got slightly better. Several days of practicing later, he managed to keep the kunai in the air for as long as he wanted. Then Anko told him the next step in this exercise. He was told that he now had to make the kunai spin above his palm without letting it fall. This proved to be very tricky and it took him about a week of non-stop practicing with lots of clones to master it, but in the end it was well worth it. When he showed Anko that he mastered the exercise, she told him that this was something a high-level chunin was supposed to learn if he wanted to become a junin. Naruto beamed with pride at accomplishing such a difficult exercise when he was just a beginning genin. Anko did tell him not to get arrogant just because of that and that he had plenty of other things he should continue to work on. Naruto quickly sobered up after that comment. His taijutsu had gone very well. Just as Anko had told him, he now could defend the most vulnerable parts of his body without thinking about it. He did it without thinking, and more than once he was glad that he could. Anko was unforgiving in her taijutsu training. She pushed him to the limit and beyond every time they sparred, but the results were great. Anko had also started learning taekwondo and aikido with Naruto. Just like Naruto, she could see the strong points of both styles. By combining the 2 styles, you got a taijutsu style that was offensive as defensive. Although Anko almost always won when they fought, Naruto was quickly catching up to her. She found that out in a sparring match when she underestimated him. He had managed to grab her by the wrist, twitching it in a way that left her no other way than give up unless she wanted him to break her wrist. As for Naruto's private studying of seals, things were progressing as well, albeit much slower than he wanted to, but that was because he only had the first 4 chapters of the book he had found in the library. So after 2 weeks of studying, he was out of material to work with. The first 4 chapters only dealt with an introduction, an overview of the most common use of seals and the first steps on how to make a seal. Unfortunately, he had no chart of seals he could use, so he didn't know how several seals looked like, which stopped his studying right at that point. But since Anko had to report to the Hokage tomorrow, she would stop by the Junin library and pick up some textbook on sealing and jutsu making. Well Gaki, this ends the first month and I'm very proud to say you have made some excellent progress. Your chakra control has improved to the level of a high-level chunin. Your taijutsu has come a long way and your stealth and tracking knowledge is on par with a mid-level genin. It could still use some work, but you're doing great. Anko said with a proud voice, showing Naruto that she meant every word. Thank you, sensei. I owe it all thanks to your help and training. Thanks to you I'm on my way to becoming the best shinobi in all the lands. Naruto said sincerely. Don't mention it, Gaki. I have learned a lot as well. I enjoyed our first month here and I'm looking forward to the next 5 months. Now, is there something you would like beside books on sealing and jutsu making? Might as well take advantage while I'm there. Anko said. Naruto thought for a few seconds and remembered something that he had been thinking about for a few days. A few days ago one of his old kunai broke when he was hunting for lunch. He thought that if he knew how to forge weapons himself he would be able to repair or make his own weapons. Well, if you insist. Could you look on a book on how to forge weapons? You know, to learn how to make your own kunai or something like that. Naruto asked Anko. Anko told him she would look if they had book on that subject, but she wasn't sure that she would find book like that. Naruto told her about Hideki-san and his shop and that maybe Hideki-san would know where to find books on that subject. Anko said that was a possibility and said she would pay a visit to the man. After a good night's sleep, Anko told Naruto to practice on his own for that day while she went to the village to give her report. She guessed she would be back by the time it got dark. Naruto promised he would train like every other day and went out to start his stretching and running exercises. Anko left shortly after waving goodbye and started to make towards the village. Since she didn't have to slow down her pace so Naruto would be able to follow, she went full speed and made it to the village in just less than 30 hours. She went straight to the Hokage Tower knowing that the Sandaime would be curious to hear her report. Arriving at the tower, she went inside greeting the girl at the front desk and telling her she had an appointment with the Hokage. After checking her book, the girl told her to go on ahead. Anko nodded and went towards the Hokage's office. She knocked on the door and hearing permission to go in, she opened the door and went inside. "Ah, Anko-san, how have you been? I was wondering when I would see you today. Please have a seat," Sarutobi said to Anko. Anko nodded and took a seat in front of the Hokage. Seeing a curious look on the man's face, she immediately started giving her report. "Good morning, sir. I'm fine, thank you very much. How are you? I can tell you want to hear about Naruto and his training," Anko said, trying to tease the man a little bit. "I'm fine, thank you, and yes, I'm very curious to hear how the first month of Naruto's training has been. So don't tease an old man and tell him what he wants to know," Sarutobi said, smiling. "Very well, sir. You'll be glad to hear that Naruto's training has been going better than I ever suspected. At first I had expected to report that his chakra control and taijutsu would have advanced to a genin level, but I'm very proud to say that Naruto has surpassed all of my expectations. Thanks to his use of the Kage Bunshin no jutsu, his chakra control has reached what I believe to be high chunin level. He already completed the kunai spinning exercise, which as you know is necessary for a chunin to become a junin. He did it in about 1.5 weeks. He had some trouble in the beginning, but once he understood the concept he completed the exercise in record time. His taijutsu was just as you warned me about. The taijutsu style that's taught at the academy is totally wrong for him, but he has picked up some very interesting books on 2 taijutsu styles called Taekwondo and Aikido. They are what most people call ancient style, but nonetheless they're very effective and Naruto is very proficient at them. I have started to learn them as well, and I must say they are without a doubt a powerful style to know. We have also been working on stealth and tracking, trap making and more theoretical knowledge. He still needs training, but he's now at mid-genin level on those matters." After said and done, Naruto is a very talented young boy who could very well become one of the best shinobi in the world, if not the best of all. Anko finished. Sandaime had been listening very closely to Anko's report and he couldn't be more proud at what he heard. Hearing that Naruto had surpassed his teacher's expectations pleased him very much. But still he wondered why nobody at the academy had noticed Naruto's talent. When he asked about it, the answer he got displeased him greatly. "I asked myself that very same question, sir, and when I asked he first refused to give me an answer, saying he didn't want to cause trouble to anyone. I had to bribe him with a new jutsu to get the answer. I wasn't happy when I heard that when he started at the academy he tried to be the very best and studied every day, but every time he tried to answer a question the teacher ignored him. When his teacher asked him a question, it was always a question no academy student could answer. He even got different tests than his classmates." Naruto realized that no matter what he did, he would always get bad scores, so he stopped trying. He also said that every time something happened in class he would get the blame and the punishment. All this resulted in Naruto not learning the basics, which led to him failing 3 times. It wasn't until Iruka became his sensei that he actually liked going to class, but after years of neglecting his studies the damage was done. Anko said with a tone of anger in her voice. Sarutobi slumped down in his chair and sighed. He should have known something like this had happened. He always wondered why Naruto wasn't as smart and talented as his parents were, but now he knew that this wasn't the case. It was because of poor teaching and neglect that Naruto's grades suffered. I should have known about all of this. Naruto's parents were so talented that it was impossible for Naruto not to be a talented young boy. Damn, some people's ignorance and prejudice, they only saw the Kyuubi and never Naruto. Well, I'm not going to let it slide this time. Sarutobi said, slamming his fist on his desk. Please Hokage-sama, don't do anything big. Naruto told me this in confidence and I really don't want to break his trust. He told me that it didn't matter anymore thanks to his precious people. He told me that he's very happy right now. I don't want him to have to deal with this when he gets back. Please. Anko almost begged Sandame. Fine, you're right, after all he's happy now and that's what matters the most. Thank you Anko for taking care of Naruto. I owe you one. So you tell me he has high Chunin level chakra control already? He never ceases to amaze me, always surprising everybody. So what do you have planned for his training in the coming month? Sarutobi said after calming down a little. Well sir, at first I thought it would take 2 months to get his chakra control and taijutsu to an acceptable level, so that plan went straight out the window. So we planned to start speed and strength training a month earlier. I'm also thinking about starting his ninjutsu training this month instead of next month. Then there is also his individual training and studying he does. I couldn't believe my eyes when at the end of training he would rest and read for a short time and then he would just start exercising again. Naruto has an unbelievable amount of stamina and chakra. I had trouble keeping up at first, but thanks to me training with him I have become stronger myself. Anko said, proud of her student progress. Individual training and studying? What does he do? Yes, Anbu and myself are quite aware of Naruto's amazing stamina. The Anbu did have to chase him all over town several times after one of his pranks. I still remember some of those chases. Sarutobi said, laughing as he remembered one Anbu member collapsing after a chase to catch Naruto. Well, Naruto is studying sealing on his own after our daily training is over. He found those sealing scrolls so interesting that he wants to learn all about seals. As a matter of fact, I will borrow some books on sealing for him from the Junin library. He has 2 other subjects he wants to study, being jutsu making and weapon forging. I have to visit someone called Hideki-san if I don't find anything in the library about forging. Anko said. He wants to learn sealing and jutsu making? He sure knows to pick some of the most difficult areas of study, doesn't he? Ah yes, Hideki-san. Yes, he made quite an impression on Naruto when we went shopping there. Sarutobi said, shocked that Naruto wanted to learn these kind of things. Yes, but when I told him that mastering sealing and jutsu making could take years, he just shrugged and told me that he had a small army of students at his disposal. Took me a minute to realize he meant Kage Bunshin no jutsu. But the thing is, sir, while Naruto isn't a book-smart kind of genius, I believe he's the kind of person that learns the most when he can practice with his hands. You know, learning by trying and failing but never giving up, and in the end he will understand how something works and he will achieve what he wants. Anko said. Sarutobi nodded. After all, one of his own students was that kind of person. Hating to study from a book, but give him something that he could learn by doing and he would do it in no time. Sarutobi got up from his chair and went to his private bookshelf. After searching for a while he grabbed a book and made his way over to Anko. This is one of the most completed books about seals and sealing. It starts from the very beginning and ends at an high intermediate level. Tell Naruto that he can use the book as long as he needs it. Just tell him that it is a book that was written by his hero and he will understand. Tell him that I'm very proud of his progress and that there's no doubt in my mind that one day he will have my job. Sarutobi said to Anko. Anko nodded and thanked the Hokage for the great book that would help Naruto a lot in his study of seals. She told him that she would be back again next month for her report on Naruto's progress. Getting up, she slightly bowed, showing her respect to the kind man that Naruto considered his Ji-chan. When she left the office, she promptly went to the Junin library looking for books on jutsu making and weapon forging. After about half an hour she had found 2 books on jutsu making that looked to be very interesting, but she didn't find any books on weapon forging. So she went to find this Hideki person Naruto had told her about. She didn't know the store Naruto mentioned, but she knew the area in that part of town. After searching for about 10 minutes she located the shop she was looking for. She wasted no time and went inside looking for this Hideki person. Once inside she could see why Naruto was so excited when he mentioned the store. It was without a doubt one of the biggest shinobi stores she had ever seen. Maybe she would find something that interested her as well. Going towards the counter she saw a man around the Hokage's age reading a magazine. Luckily for the old man it wasn't a dirty magazine, otherwise she would have to hurt him. Hello sir, I'm looking for Hideki-san, Anko said. The man looked up from his magazine and told her that he was Hideki. "Ah, nice to meet you, sir. My name is Mitarashi Anko and I'm Naruto's Junin sensei." Naruto asked if you could help him finding a book on weapon forging. "I looked in the library but didn't find anything," Anko explained. "Nice to meet you as well, Anko-san." "Ah yes, young Naruto. How is he doing?" Hideki asked, wondering how the young genin was doing. Anko told him how Naruto's training was going and that he was progressing very well. She told him about his interest in sealing thanks to his sealing scroll and about the broken kunai and how it got him interested in weapon forging. Hideki, who used to forge his own weapons for his store while he was younger, was glad to help out Naruto, so he went in the back and got his own personally written book on his own way of forging. He also got Naruto several scrolls that contained a large amount of scrap metal to practice his forging on. Scrap metal was of no use to make actual weapons but was good enough to practice on. Lastly, he gave Naruto a scroll that contained a small amount of strong metal that was used to forge high-quality weapons. Since he didn't use it anymore, he was more than glad to give it to Naruto. Anko thanked him for the great help and gifts he had given Naruto, and she told him that Naruto would be very happy knowing that he had such a good friend in Hideki. After putting everything away in her backpack, Anko looked at time to see that she still had plenty of time to get back, so she went to find her friend Kurenai. Finding her at the training grounds with her genin team, she went over to talk to her. Kurenai saw her friend arriving and dismissed her team for the day, wanting to speak without having to worry about her students listening in. Anko quickly told Kurenai about her past month and the time she had spent with Naruto without revealing any details of his training or the things he had learned. Kurenai could see how happy and cheerful Anko was when she talked about her student. She couldn't resist asking more about the mysterious boy named Naruto. "So his training is going really well? That's good to hear. You look very happy, Anko. I don't remember the last time you were so cheerful," Kurenai said to her best friend. Anko told her that Naruto really was a great guy. She told her that for the first time in her life she really felt comfortable around a man. He was respectful, wasn't a pervert, and overall a really nice guy. Kurenai smiled at her friend. She was really happy that Anko had found a friend in Naruto. They both needed more friends to lose some of that lonely feeling both knew all too well. After that, Kurenai told her about her team and the missions they had done until now. She also told that those D-ranked missions were so dull that she actually had fallen asleep while her students were completing the mission. That earned her a pat on the back from Anko, who said how happy she was not being forced to do such idiotic chores. After talking about non-shinobi related topics, Anko needed to get back, otherwise she would have to travel in the dark, and that was something she didn't want to do, so they said goodbye and promised to meet each other again next month. When Anko got back from her first report, she found Naruto eating some fish for dinner. He quickly took out some more fish and prepared them so she could have dinner as well. Anko didn't need to be told twice, and she gratefully accepted the meal. Over the meal she told him about her day and about everything that happened. When she gave him the scrolls and books that she received from Hideki, he almost started reading right there and then. But then she gave him the book on sealing and told him the message the Hokage had given her. "This book was written by Yondaime? Really?" Naruto stammered after a full minute of silence. Anko had been curious who Naruto's hero was, and now she knew. It wasn't surprising after all. The Yondaime was said to be one of the greatest shinobi ever lived. She quickly nodded and smiled when he pressed the book to his chest as if it was the greatest treasure in the world. To him it probably was. Since she had traveled quite some distance today, she wished him good night and told him that he had the morning off from training so they could discuss the training schedule for the next month. Naruto wished her good night and thanked her again for everything she had done for him. He spent some time reading in Yondaime book and went to sleep soon after reading the first chapter. When he awoke the next morning, he found himself alone in the cave. He quickly got dressed and went outside looking for his sensei. He found her sitting in the clearing, furiously scribbling some notes down on a piece of paper. He quietly sat next to her so he wouldn't disturb her while working. He started on making breakfast, knowing that she would stop writing as soon as she smelled breakfast. Anko was trying to figure out a way to maximize the amount of training Naruto could do this month. Not an easy task at 7 a.m. in the morning. She wrote something down, but soon after that she would find something new and then she would have to start over again. It was driving her nuts. Suddenly she smelled breakfast and her stomach told her it was time to stop writing and start eating. She looked over at Naruto and saw him smiling while holding a plate for her. Naruto has changed so much this past month. He's really something else, she told herself. They ate their breakfast in silence like they did every morning. It took Naruto 2 days to figure out that Anko liked to spend the early morning, at least until after breakfast, in silence. He came to enjoy a silent breakfast soon after that. It was a time where he could think about the day that was to come. Alright Gaki, we have to figure out your new training schedule. I've been going over some things but I can't seem to find a healthy balance. Help me out here will you? Now I think that you could spend 1 hour every day practicing chakra control, then we have some sparring matches until lunch. After lunch we could spend some time working on speed and strength training. Or we could work on your ninjutsu training. What do you think? Anko said, trying to get Naruto to help. What about this? In the morning I make a few dozen clones like always and tell them to practice chakra control and taijutsu, while the clones do that. You and I work on sparring, speed and strength exercises. After lunch we could either work on ninjutsu or theoretical stuff. We could alternate the afternoon program each day. Sounds good? Naruto said. Anko thought about it and agreed that this was a good idea. Having a full afternoon time on one subject would allow her to go slowly when Naruto had trouble, and it would allow their muscles to relax and adjust. She liked the idea of having some kind of diversity while teaching. So they quickly agreed that they would follow Naruto's schedule for the next month. They decided to start in the afternoon with theoretical lessons since she still felt a little tired from the day before. Naruto told her that was fine, and since they had the morning off he took out his book on sealing and started reading while Anko went back to bed. The next day Naruto did his morning exercises, but when he was about to make a few dozen clones Anko told him that she had a new exercise in mind. She got the idea some days before about how medical shinobi had to have really good chakra control. They were able to make chakra scalpels with their chakra. A chakra scalpel was made by focusing an amount of chakra to the tip of the finger and manipulation it in such a way that it would become as sharp as a knife. The more she thought about it, the more sure she became that it would be a really good exercise for Naruto. She quickly explained what she had in mind, and Naruto made his clones and told them to get started. While the clones were busy, the two of them started on having a light spar before working on speed and strength training. Several days later one of his clones had a small success in creating what seemed to be an incomplete chakra scalpel. The clone had succeeded in sharpening the chakra into a somewhat sharp knife. After that small success he quickly managed to recreate what the clone had done, and he was on his way to make a fully completed chakra scalpel. His other training started good as well. He was becoming more and more adept at using both taekwondo and aikido and gave Anko a run for her money when they had sparring matches. The ninjutsu training was lots of fun as well. Anko had taught him several Kaiden jutsus and 3 variations on the Kage Bunshin no jutsu. He remembered those lessons well. Flashback. Alright Gaki, I've got 3 variations of Kage Bunshin no jutsu for you to learn. They're named Shuriken Kage Bunshin no jutsu, Kunai Kage Bunshin no jutsu, and Bakuretsu Kage Bunshin no jutsu. The first 2 make not clones of yourself but off your kunai or shuriken. I'm sure you can see the advantage of that. The third one makes clones just like the normal Kage Bunshin no jutsu, but it allows you to let the clone explode, taking your enemy with them. Anko explained. Naruto was practically bouncing up and down hearing about these very cool jutsus. He couldn't wait to get started with the training. When he wanted to make some clones to help him in mastering the jutsu, Anko stopped him. No Naruto. No clones in the beginning. I want you to learn them first on your own. After you're able to do them well enough you can master them by using Kage Bunshin no jutsu. I don't want you to rely on that jutsu all the time. Anko ordered Naruto. Naruto didn't get why he couldn't use the Kage Bunshin no jutsu to learn the new jutsu. But if he was honest with himself he realized he depended too much on the Kage Bunshin no jutsu, so he nodded and started learning the Kunai Kage Bunshin no jutsu. In the end it took him about 2 days per jutsu to be able to do them good enough before Anko allowed him to use the Kage Bunshin no jutsu to finish mastering them. But he felt really good about himself for not using Kage Bunshin no jutsu to learn them, and he decided to always learn a new jutsu on his own, and only when he was able to do it well enough would he finish mastering it with Kage Bunshin no jutsu. End flashback. Halfway through the month Naruto had a breakthrough in his experiments with seals. He had been trying to create his own storage scroll, but it proved to be harder than it looked. The necessary seals that had to be placed on the scroll were much more complicated than he anticipated, but he didn't give up. Naruto didn't know the words, giving up, and kept trying with Anko encouraging him every step of the way. His success came when he tried for the 100th time to create a storage scroll. By not paying attention for a small moment, he applied 2 necessary seals in what he thought was the wrong order. The result was a fully working storage scroll that he created on his own. It was the first time he had succeeded in creating a working scroll, so understandably he was very proud and couldn't stop smiling for 2 days after. Or it could be because Anko had given him a big hug and a small kiss on his cheek as a way to congratulate him. Naruto had blushed up a storm and Anko hadn't stopped teasing him about it for days. The next part in the book he received from Yondaime was creating a sort of gravity seal that would allow him to put it on his chest. This seal would make his body twice as heavy as he normally was. The advantage of this seal was that unlike normal weights, which were rarely used anymore according to Anko, this seal would affect every muscle in his body. This would result in a much more completed training. Naruto was immediately interested. It didn't help that Yondaime had written in the margin that he personally used this seal when he was young. Anko said that until she was absolutely sure that he could do it without risking anything, she wouldn't allow him to put it on his body. She would also talk about it with Sandaime Hokage, and only if he said that the seal was safe she would allow him to apply it on his body. Naruto, who didn't had anyone worrying about him before like this, was touched that Anko cared so much about him, and since he couldn't do the seal yet anyway, it didn't matter. Now 2 days before Anko had to report on Naruto's progress, he called her aside. He had finished a little side project of his. He had been trying to design his own weapon for some time now, and he had decided to start small and make some throwing knives. While kunai were very useful and a lot of shinobi used them as a throwing weapons, the fact remained that kunai were not designed for this purpose. Kunai were designed to use as a stabbing and cutting weapon. Wanting a specially designed throwing knife, he had sat down, made some sketches of how he wanted them to look, and started practicing on forging them out of the scrap metal he had gotten from Hideki-san. After trying several times, he got them just right. He decided to make an extra 3 sets of 3 throwing knives for Anko, his Ji-chan and Hideki-san. Anko, surprised at Naruto's actions, seeing he was kind of nervous about something, went over to him and asked if something was wrong. Naruto, who was sweating bullets, assured her everything was fine and told her he had made something for her. After saying that, he held out a small package and told her to open it. When she opened it, Anko couldn't believe her eyes. Inside were 3 beautifully shaped knives. She sat down and took one of the knife in her hand to take a closer look at it. The knife was about 8 inch long, handle included. They were long in shape and double-edged. The handle was just long enough to fit right in her hand, allowing her to hold it very comfortably. The knife looked incredibly sharp and very easy to use. Naruto, who had been watching her examine the knife, couldn't help but worry that she didn't like it. He really hoped she liked them. It was his way to say thank you for everything she had done for him over the past 2 months. Naruto, I don't know what to say. These are incredible. How did you manage to make such fantastic weapons? I didn't even see you practice forging them, Anko said while looking back and forth between the knives and Naruto. Well, I knew that kunai aren't really meant to be throwing weapons, so I wanted to make my own. So I designed them myself and started making them from the scrap metal I got from Hideki-san. When I knew I could make them perfectly, I forged them out of that high-quality metal as a present for you. I also made a set for Ji-chan and Hideki-san. Do you like them? It's okay if you don't, I understand, Naruto said shyly. Like them? Naruto, I love them. Thank you so much for this wonderful present. I will treasure them for the rest of my life. I can't believe you did that for me, Anko truthfully said with a tear in each eye. And to prove how grateful she really was, she grabbed him in a big hug and gave him a kiss on each cheek. Naruto felt a huge weight drop of his shoulders when she told him that she loved her present. Then he got hugged and kissed again, and he started blushing like crazy. He told her that it was nothing and that it was a way to thank her for everything she had done for him. Though he thought that he could never repay her for the past 2 months. They had spent the rest of the day throwing the knives for practice, and Anko had to say that they were without a doubt much more comfortable and easier to throw than kunai. She was amazed at Naruto's ability to forge such a flawless weapon. She was sure that Sandaime Hokage and Hideki would say the same thing. Naruto got a little flushed when she told him that. The night before she had to leave for her report, she asked Naruto if there was anything he needed from the library. Naruto, who still finished his book on sealing and still had to start on the books for jutsu making, told her he was fine for now. He wanted to concentrate on the things he had at hand before moving on to other subjects. But he remembered a lesson where Enko had told him about chakra affinities and that you could see what kind of affinity you had by using a special piece of paper, so he asked if she could get him one of those. He was kind of curious to know what his affinity was. Enko promised him to bring him back such a paper and prepared her backpack, carefully putting Naruto's presents inside. She wondered how they would react. When she woke up the next morning, Naruto was already outside preparing breakfast for both of them. She went outside and greeted him with a small smile and sat down to start eating breakfast. She was grateful that he had prepared breakfast for her because she would have to travel back to the village today for a report. After eating, she cleared the dishes and got ready to leave. Waving goodbye, she told him she would be back before nightfall and that he better had trained while she was away or there would be trouble. Naruto laughed and asked her to say hello to everybody for him. Nodding, she left towards the exit of the forest. When she arrived, she once again made straight for the Hokage Tower and marched straight to the Hokage's office. Knocking, she heard Sandaime give his permission to enter. "Good morning, Hokage-sama, I'm here for my monthly report," she said, saluting the Hokage since she was in a playful mood. The Hokage smiled and wished her a good morning as well. Telling her to sit down, he waited for her to start her report. But before she started, she opened her backpack and gave him a small package. "It's a present from Naruto. To thank you for everything you have done for him," Enko said, smiling. Sarutobi carefully opened the package, not knowing what it could be. He slowly took one of the 3 knives in his hand and studied very closely. He could see that they were made with precision and great care. He thought they were beautiful, almost a work of art not meant to be used in battle. He looked at Enko, asking her to explain. When he heard that Naruto had forged these throwing knives for him, he could help but feel happy and honored. She also told him that he had made a set for her and Hideki as well. "That boy, how does he manage to surprise me time and time again?" Sandaime wondered out loud. Like last time, Enko gave a detailed overview of Naruto's progress. How he had succeeded in making his own storage scroll, how he had mastered the chakra scalpel exercise and the jutsus he had learned. She also told him about the gravity seal that Naruto wanted to try. She asked him about the dangers of such a seal. Sandaime quickly reassured her that if Yondaime had used the seal, it was perfectly safe to use. He completed the chakra scalpel exercise? That's amazing for someone with his amount of chakra. He must have worked very hard to achieve such a feat. "How is his taijutsu going?" asked Sarutobi. Enko explained that Naruto practiced for day to no end to complete the chakra scalpel exercise, but once again when he made his first small breakthrough, it didn't take long to finish it. She also told him that his taijutsu was getting very hard to beat thanks to his speed and strength training. Also the fact that his stamina was greater than hers, so couldn't underestimate him anymore. He was getting strong very fast in her opinion. She also told him that while he hadn't started on making his own jutsus yet, she believed it was only a matter of time. "Enko, how strong do you think Naruto is now and how strong do you think he will be after the full 6 months? Please give a honest reply. This is important because it relates to a promise I made," Sarutobi said in a very serious voice. Enko, who hadn't expected such a question, kept silent for a full minute, thinking how she would make an honest assessment of Naruto's strength and level. After thinking about it, she told the Sandaime Hokage that she believed Naruto to be between High Genin and Low Chunin as of this moment. She gave him this level because although Naruto got very good at taijutsu and chakra control, he still had a number of skill he had to improve or acquire. She predicted that by the end of the 6 months Naruto would at least be between mid-level and high-level Chunin. Of course she was a bit biased being his sensei, but she believed that if anyone could achieve this, it would be Naruto. Sarutobi nodded, satisfied with Enko's honest reply, and opened a drawer from his desk. The drawer had a special seal on it which only allowed himself to open it. Thanks to a seal that recognized a person's chakra signature, only the owner could access the drawer. He pulled out a scroll, placed it on his desk, and once again undid a seal that would allow somebody else to read it. This wasn't the only seal on the scroll, though it had several safety seals that would protect the contents that it held. Sarutobi looked at the scroll with a look of sadness and regret on his face before telling Anko that this scroll was now Naruto's. He didn't know what was written inside, but he had promised Yondaime that when Naruto would have reached Chunin level he would give the scroll to him. Yondaime said that only Naruto would be able to open it thanks to a blood seal. Naruto would have put some of his blood on the seal which would allow him to open it. There was another seal on the scroll that would judge Naruto's chakra level to see if he was strong enough to read the scroll. When the scroll judged him ready he would be able to read it. Sarutobi asked Anko that when she returned tonight she would give the scroll to him. He also asked that she would support Naruto when he would read it because if he guessed right at the contents of the scroll would be a huge shock to him. Anko quickly promised to help Naruto in every way possible to make sure he would be alright. That being said, Sarutobi dismissed her and told her that he would wait with a heavy heart for her next report. He also told her that Hideki wanted to see her though he hadn't said about what. 5 minutes later Anko was on her way to Hideki's shop wondering what the old man wanted from her. Maybe he had a gift for her or Naruto. Arriving at the store she wasted no time and went inside. "Hello Hideki-san, you asked to see me and here I am. What can I do for you?" she said with a playful voice. "Ah, Anko-san, just the person I wanted to see. And right on time as well." "Excellent," Hideki said. After some small talk Hideki got right to business. He told her that he had managed to buy a significant amount of high-quality metal from a retiring weapon maker. Hideki had been able to get a very good price for it and he wanted Naruto to have it. The man was so impressed that a young boy wanted to learn how to forge weapons that he donated some of his very own equipment to help Naruto in his weapon making. Anko couldn't help it but she had to smile as she thought about how Naruto would react to such a gift. He would be very happy, no doubt about it. She thanked him very much and asked that he would that the old weapon maker in hers and Naruto's name. He nodded and told her that would do just that. After that she remembered that she had a gift to deliver and took the small package out of her backpack. Hideki opened the package and took out one of the knives. He was very impressed with the knives and told Anko to tell Naruto how much he liked them. After spending the rest of the afternoon with Kurenai, silently cursing one of her students for being very loud and annoying, she went back to the forest. She liked the village but she liked the tranquility of the forest much better. She felt good in the middle of nature and liked the small place in the forest she started to call home after these past 2 months. Naruto for his part had finished his necessary training for the day around noon, so he had the rest of the afternoon to read up on seals. He had an idea in the back of his head that he wanted to try out. He had skipped through the book last night and had found something called a blood seal that he immediately liked. A seal that would offer protection to his scrolls so only he, or his descendants, could open them seemed a very nice option. If he wanted to start his own clan weapons and jutsus he would need a way to protect those secrets, so a blood seal protection sounded very useful. After several tries he succeeded in placing the seal on one of his storage scrolls. Happy about his success he applied the seal to all the storage scrolls he had made until now. Seeing that he still had lots of time before Anko would be back he flipped through the book looking for something useful. Just when he was about to give up on finding something that he could do since a lot of the seals still were out of his reach, a small note caught his eye. It was something that Yondaime had scribbled down between 2 chapters. The seal he described was a seal that would allow you to channel chakra into a weapon. The seal would place the weapon in a casing made of chakra. The casing would take the form and shape of the weapon and would have a very sharp edge which would make the weapon even sharper and stronger. Naruto thought it was like a chakra scalpel but on a weapon. He could see the use of such a thing. One effect of the chakra scalpel was that it cut like a hot knife through butter. Having such an edge on a weapon would lead to great damage on his enemies. He took out one of his throwing knives and started to engrave the seal into the blade. This took some time because he didn't want to make a mistake and ruin his knife. After about half an hour of very carefully engraving the seal he finally finished it. He wondered what kind of damage his improved knife would do. Deciding that there's no time like the present he went to the tree they had used for target practice. He struggled a bit to put the right amount of chakra into the seal. When he saw a blue glow appear around the knife just like the book said he threw it at the target with all the strength he could muster. Keeping his eyes on the weapon, he almost fainted from pure excitement when he saw the knife pierce through the tree and embed itself into the tree behind it. He stood there shocked at what he had seen. his mind trying to grasp the possibilities that opened up to him thanks to this seal and already thinking about engraving the rest of his knives. He went over to the target tree and saw that the knife just went through it like it wasn't there. He collected his knife and saw that the chakra casing had disappeared. He reasoned that the casing probably disappeared when the knife went through the first tree. After that it was just a normal throwing knife. Anko arrived soon after finding Naruto grinning like a madman engraving something into his knives. The look in his eyes was one of pure excitement and pride. Seeing he was busy doing some detailed work, she decided not to disturb him until he put down the knives. Some minutes later he looked up and greeted Anko with a huge smile. "Hey Naruto, everything alright? What has gotten you in such a good mood?" Anko asked a little concerned. "Anko-sensei, watch this," was all that Naruto said. He went over to the tree with Anko following him. He channeled some chakra into the knife and threw it towards the tree. When Anko saw the knife going through the tree, she dropped the scroll she had been holding. Looking shocked and hardly believing what she had just seen, she managed to ask Naruto how the hell he did that. So Naruto started explaining about applying the blood seal to his storage scroll and find the seal for the weapon in the book. He told her that he had tried it on one knife, and when he saw the results he promptly started to engrave the seal into his other knives. He did that in just one day? Damn, the Gaki is getting better and better with seals. What else will he come up with? Oh man, I can't wait to see all those jerks at the academy when they see how talented Naruto really is. That's going to be a sight to behold. Anko thought with a smile. She told Naruto that he had found an amazing thing and surpassed her expectations once again. She then told him to gather all his stuff and then they would eat dinner inside the cave. She was a little nervous about showing him the scroll she received from the Hokage. She could tell from his body language that the old man was a little afraid of how Naruto would react. Since Naruto was in such a good mood, she didn't to cause him grief if she could help it. But she had promised to give the scroll tonight and she would keep that promise. After dinner she told him about the scroll she had for him. She told him it was addressed to him from Yondaime and that he would only be able to read it if he was strong enough. She said he could try and see if he could open once every week starting tonight. She also told him that she promised Sandaime that she would stay with him and that he asked her to read the scroll with him. Naruto nodded and said that he would try to open it. He let a drop of blood fall on the seal and the scroll glowed red, showing that the blood protection was lifted. He then channeled some chakra into the scroll and to his and Anko's surprise the scroll opened up, showing that he was ready to read the words Yondaime had written. With shaking hands Naruto grabbed the scroll and put it on his lap. Anko sat down next to him and put her arm around his shoulder, showing her support. Together they started to read. "Dear Naruto, I'm writing this scroll knowing that this would be the only thing I would be able to leave you. This is without a doubt the most painful thing I had ever had to do. On this very moment Kyuubi is attacking the outer limits of the village, and as Hokage I have to fight and protect the ones I love. I also know that this will be my last fight. Kyuubi cannot be defeated like any other enemy. Kyuubi is a demon and so many times stronger than a shinobi, even a shinobi as strong as myself. Knowing this I started searching for another way to defeat it and I believe I have found it. But this solution come with a great cost, a cost of a human life. If it would have been my life it would have gladly given it, but unfortunately this is not the case. While I will die fighting the Kyuubi, it's your life I have to sacrifice, and for that I'm so very sorry. I'm going to seal the demon inside your body, making you a prison for him. You will the one who will save our village every day of your life. You will stop him from destroying everything and everyone we love. You will be a hero amongst heroes, but by doing this I know that I'm sentencing you to a very hard life, and for that I apologize once more. Know that I have the utmost confidence in you. I know that you will be able to do what I am not. Defeating Kyuubi and protecting our village and loved ones. I'm sure you're wondering why I chose you. Well, the reason is simple but also complicated at the same time. The truth is that you're my son. You're the son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. I can only imagine how you must feel right now. Know that I had no choice than to choose you, my son. You're the only one I would trust for such a job. I understand if you're mad at me and maybe even hate me. The reason nobody told you about us is that I had a large number of enemies inside and outside of Konoha. I was responsible for the death of a large number of Iwa shinobi during the war, and they have always been very hostile towards me after the war. If they knew I had a son they would have sent assassins to kill you and I couldn't let that happen to my only son. I'm very sorry to say that your mother died during labor. Which is not your fault, so don't even think such a thing. Your mother was very sick at the end of her pregnancy and her weakened heart couldn't handle the stress of giving birth. But know that she loved more than life itself. She held you in her arms for a brief moment and I had never seen her so happy in all the time I have known her. She would always talk about you and the things she would teach you when you were older. As for me, I have never been more proud than the moment I held you in my arms for the first time. I knew right there and then that you would be the greatest shinobi ever. I have loved you since the moment your mom and I knew she was pregnant and I loved you more and more each passing day. I'm so proud to be your dad and I love you very much. Never forget that. Inside this scroll are several of my original jutsus that I have made and that made me the man I am today. This is my legacy for you Naruto. The Namikaze clan is not a big or famous clan like the Uchiha or the Hyuga, so we're not rich and we don't own a large estate, but we were always happy with what we had and more importantly we had love. Make sure you find someone to love my son, because love will enable you to become truly strong. Well, I guess this is it. There were so many things your mother and I wanted to teach you. We wanted to see you grow up happily and find love so you could give us some grandchildren to spoil. So as your parents we give you a mission. The mission is to get as strong as you can, find a lovely wife and raise at least 2 children on which you can pass our legacy on to. This is our mission to you. With all our love, Mom and Dad. When Naruto and Anko finished reading the letter both had tears in their eyes, both very moved by such a beautiful letter which had such a sad contents. Naruto couldn't stop the tears from falling and his shoulders started to shake from the emotions and feelings that were going through his head. Anko felt him tearing up and on the spur of the moment embraced him in a tight hug, letting him know that it was okay to cry on her shoulder. And so Naruto broke down. For the first time in years he cried. He cried for his mom and dad, he cried that they died without knowing their son, he cried for himself because fate didn't allow him to know his parents, he cried because of the loneliness he had known for years. Anko held him in her arms telling him to let it out while she spoke soft words of support. She was amazed at the boy's, no not boy, this young man's past and that he was the son of the biggest hero Konoha had ever known. Briefly she wondered why she hadn't noticed it before. She remembered the picture that hung in the Hokage Tower and Naruto really was the spitting image of his dad. They looked like father and son, maybe she needed glasses because the resemblance was staggering. She felt Naruto calm down and when she looked at him she found him asleep on her shoulder tired from all the crying he had done. She smiled and moved him so he could sleep comfortably. She gave him a small kiss on the forehead and went to sleep herself. This concludes chapter 5 of The Story of Uzumaki Naruto. I tried to write an emotional chapter and personally I think I succeeded in doing just that. Let me know what you think and expect chapter 6 on Sunday the 2nd of March. The next morning Naruto woke up feeling better than ever. He felt like he had gotten rid of all those feelings of sadness and loneliness last night. Now that he knew who his parents were and that they loved him above everything else, a huge weight had dropped from his shoulders. For years he had thought that his parents abandoned him and that they didn't love him. Now he knew the truth and he couldn't be more happier. Well, he was still sad that they were gone, but he couldn't change anything about that, so once again he made a promise to make his parents proud and to fulfill the mission they gave him. He had no problem with that mission since it was one of his biggest dreams to have his own family. He would do anything to make sure that that dream came through. He saw Anko still wrapped up in her futon and he remembered how she held him when he cried. He was really grateful for her presence last night. He didn't recall when or how he fell asleep, the only thing he knew was that he had never slept so good before in his entire life. He would have to thank her for her help. She really was a fantastic woman in his eyes. She helped with his training, she was fun to be around and she was there for him when he needed her the most. How he would ever repay her he didn't know, but he would find something. Getting up he started to make the best breakfast ever made to show some of his appreciation. Anko woke up smelling what seemed to be a delicious breakfast. Looking over to Naruto's futon she saw he was already outside. She hoped he was feeling somewhat better. She didn't like seeing Naruto hurt and sad. It made her feel helpless and useless. Getting dressed she decided to let Naruto say the first word. She wouldn't force him to talk about it. When he was ready he would talk to her, she was sure of that. When she came outside the cave she found him waiting for her so they could have breakfast. She nodded a good morning to him and attacked her breakfast. He smiled as he saw just how much she enjoyed the breakfast he had made for them. As she finished breakfast, Naruto saw a moment to thank her for last night. "Anko-sensei, thank you for last night. Thank you for being there with me. I feel much better now that cried for my parents. I always wondered if they had abandoned me, but now I know the truth. It made me really happy that I could cry on your shoulder. It really means a lot for me," Naruto said softly. "Don't worry, Naruto, I feel honored that you wanted me there last night. That was a very personal letter after all. It was a very normal reaction to want to cry. You have found something that you wanted all your life as an orphan. I know because just like you I lost my parents when I was really young, so I kind of know what you're going through. Just know that you're not alone anymore. You have Sandame, Iruka, and you have me. We will help you whenever you needs us," Anko said. Anko stood up and went over to Naruto and gave him a big hug, and for the first time he hugged her back. It seemed that he decided to take a chance again and let someone into his heart. He felt good when she hugged him, so he wanted to receive more of these hugs. "Thank you, Anko-chan," he whispered, not intending that she would hear him say those words. "You're very welcome, Naruto-kun," she said, smiling at the way he addressed her. Naruto broke away from her and tried to apologize for calling her that. Anko smiled and said that she didn't mind one bit and that he could call her that if he wanted, but only after training and when it was just the both of them. He quickly nodded his head and tried to change the subject. He asked her if she would like to look with him at the jutsu his dad had left him. Anko said she would love to, but that he should take a look for himself first. Naruto argued that she was his friend and sensei and that wanted her to see the jutsu because he knew that she could be trusted. Hearting that argument, she couldn't refuse his offer, so they looked through the scroll, finding 2 jutsus that made his dad so famous. They found notes on Rasengan, a wind and chakra-based attack that was highly destructive when mastered. They also found a very detailed description on Hiraishin no Jutsu, which earned his dad the nickname Konoha's Yellow Flash. Naruto was aware that mastering these jutsu would be far from easy. The Rasengan was a A-ranked jutsu and Hiraishin no Jutsu was a S-ranked jutsu, but he would master them no matter what. It was his father's legacy and it was his duty as his son to continue where his dad had left off. Anko was shocked beyond words. She was able to see the original notes on 2 of the most famous jutsus in the whole shinobi world. Seeing them performed in person was a huge honor, but seeing the notes the Yondaime had written, seeing how it was developed and how to learn to perform them was like meeting Kami in person. If Naruto could learn these jutsus by the end of his training, he would be without a doubt one of the strongest genin in history of Konoha. She would have to incorporate these jutsus in her training schedule because there was no way Naruto wouldn't want to learn these jutsus. "Naruto, these are amazing. Imagine learning these jutsus before the end of these 6 months. You would shock the Sandame out of his socks. You would be the strongest genin ever lived. No genin, no scratch, not even the best junin would be able to beat the Rasengan and the Hiraishin no Jutsu," Anko said, becoming more and more excited by the minute. Naruto would have to agree with her. His Ji-chan would be very surprised to see him perform his father's jutsus. It would be the best present he could give his Ji-chan, showing him that he would be stepping in his father's footsteps. He knew Ji-chan considered his dad as family. He had told him before how much he loved Yondaime and how sad he was when he died. "Anko-sensei, please help me learn these jutsus. I want to make you, my parents and Ji-chan proud. I need to know to do these jutsus. I will do whatever it takes," Naruto said, full of conviction. After that they started on making a training schedule for the next months. Since the Rasengan was almost pure chakra manipulation, they would practice on that instead of chakra control exercises. Naruto wanted to learn the Rasengan on his own and not by the use of Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, which meant that it would take longer, but they had 4 months to practice. But Anko was sure Naruto would learn the Rasengan fairly quick thanks to his good chakra control. The Hiraishin no Jutsu would be learned after the normal training, since he would first have to learn the seals that were necessary for the jutsu. Also his taijutsu would continue same as speed and strength training. The theoretical lessons Anko would spend on talking and discussing all the different clans that Konoha had. She wanted him to know about the clans and their jutsus so that he would know how to fight them if necessary. Naruto also wanted to practice his weapon forging since he had several ideas that he wanted to try out. So they started the training for the next month. Naruto and Anko spent their time training and enjoying their time together. They had fun together when training was over and they really got to know each other. Naruto had told her about some of his past and the loneliness he had known, and Anko told him why she wasn't well liked in the village and about Orochimaru and the cursed seal she had received from him. Orochimaru promptly went to the #1 spot on Naruto's to kill list, but Anko made him promise to never search out Orochimaru, and if he ever encountered him, he was to take his teammates and run to safety. She told him that no matter how strong he got, he definitely wasn't strong to beat one of the legendary Sannin. Naruto promised that he wouldn't search for Orochimaru, but that if he ever threatened one of his precious people he would fight him with everything he got. Anko, seeing he wouldn't change his mind on this, accepted and thanked him for seeing her as one of his precious people. Naruto-kun, what are your dreams for the future besides becoming Hokage? Surely you have other dreams? Anko asked her student. She smiled when she saw his face change into a serious thinking kind of face. He seemed to think a lot about how to answer this question, she thought. Well, yeah, of course I have other dreams, but becoming Hokage is not only a dream, it's a goal. A goal that I will achieve no matter what. I guess I have 3 dreams that I would like to see fulfilled. One would be to be accepted by the village as Uzumaki Naruto, and not as the Kyuubi child. The second would be to start my own family. Wife and children, and third would be to become the world's strongest shinobi. That would be great. Naruto finished. Those are very nice dreams, Naruto-kun, and I'm sure you will succeed in making them come true. Anko said, smiling. What are your dreams for the future, Anko-chan? There must be something you want? Naruto asked in return. Sure, I have several dreams. You let me see. Well, one of them would be to kick Orochimaru's ass, that's for sure. Being acknowledged as me instead of Snake Bitch would be nice too, I guess. But most of all, I want to find the place where I belong alongside with someone who loves me for me. I guess that sounds kind of cliché, but it's true for me. Anko finished. That doesn't sound cliché at all to me. For someone who had a loving family all their life and who had everything they ever wanted, that may sound cliché, but not to those with a past like ours. People like us want security and reassurance in life because we know what it feels like without them. Naruto said, understanding what Anko said. Alright, enough on the depressing topics, let's see what fun things could we talk about. Oh, I know, gossip. Always good for a laugh, Anko said with an evil smile. She was a girl after all, and girls loved to gossip. Gossip? I don't know? What do I know about gossiping? Naruto said, trying to change the topic. Not because he didn't know any gossip or something like that, but he didn't want to cause trouble for anyone. Yeah, gossip, like a dirty little secret someone has or your opinion on someone. I'll start, you'll see what I mean. Okay, there's a Junin in the village called Hitaki Kakashi. He's very strong and considered a genius, but he's also a pervert. He's always reading a orange little book called Icha Icha something, and he's always late. He wears a mask and nobody has ever seen him without it. Kurenai and I have tried to take it off, but until now we never succeeded. He's a fine shinobi but a lousy man for anything else. He pisses me off with his little book. You'll meet him later on. He's the Junin sensei of Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and one guy, I don't remember his name. Anko said with a gleam in her eye that promised lots of pain for this Kakashi person. She also noticed the look on Naruto's face when she mentioned the name Uchiha Sasuke. She was curious why, so she asked if he had a problem with him. A problem? I guess you could call it that, yeah. You see, Sasuke is the prince of the village, so to speak. Just because of his name he's pampered like nobody else. Everybody adores him and treats him like he's God's gift to mankind. I don't like him because of that. Though I will admit Sasuke is strong, he's also a jerk and an arrogant ass. I'm the first to say Sasuke is talented because he is. There's no question about that, but there are a lot of people out there that are much stronger than he is. I used to try to get along with him seeing as we're both orphans, but every time I tried to talk to him he would insult me or make fun of me for no reason. So in the end I just let him be, but he would always manage to rile me up or work on my nerves. In the academy I considered him my rival since he was always better at everything than I was, but now I don't care about that at all. Naruto admitted to her. Anko laughed and said that every generation had one of those types like Sasuke and told him not to worry about it. After that they talked about things like dango or ramen. They talked way into the night, both enjoying the fact that they got to know the other a little better than before. When they saw the time they quickly went to bed since they had training in the morning. A few days later Naruto had designed a new weapon that he wanted to forge. Thanks to the old weapon maker, Naruto had excellent tools to make this weapon. He wanted to make himself his own sword. The sword that he designed was a Japanese-style katana that when sheathed looked like a slightly curved wooden stick, but he planned it like that. He wanted that when you looked at it you couldn't see where the handle and sheath started or ended. The sword would be about 40-inch long, the blade making up for 27-inch, and the handle would be about 11-inch. He knew that carrying a large sword like that was inconvenient for a shinobi, but he had already a solution in mind for that. He would try to modify the storage seal in a way that when applied to a short sheath of 10-inch he would be able to fit the blade that was 27-inch long inside. That would make his sword, sheath and handle, only about 20-inch long, which would be much easier to carry and conceal. When he asked Anko if she had anything special planned for the evening, she told him that he could do whatever he liked since today had been theoretical lessons. So Naruto set out to start the forging of his new sword. Making several Kage Bunshins to aid him, he took out his materials and went to work. The first thing he had to do was to forge a rough forged version of his sword, then he would have to forge the metal into the correct size. Third step was covering the blade with clay. Fourth step was to heat up the in clay covered blade and cool it down right afterwards, and the final step would be polishing and sharpening the blade. The process would take weeks to complete, but Naruto didn't care. He liked working on his weapons very much. It would be a process of trial and error, but Naruto was sure that he could do it thanks to the book he received from Hideki-san. While he was working on a rough forging of his sword, he thought back about the past few days. His training in Rasengan had gone better than he could have hoped. Thanks to his continuous training in chakra control, he was pretty good at manipulation chakra necessary for the Rasengan. He had managed to complete the first step of learning the Rasengan. He had to give it to his dad. The man was a genius. Naruto would never been able to come up with such a jutsu he toughed. Although it took his dad 3 years to master the Rasengan, Naruto was sure he would be able to do it soon. This was of course thanks to his father's notes on how he learned it. And Naruto happily used the notes. The Hiraishin no Jutsu proved to be very difficult. The number of seals he had to learn was simply too much to learn in a few weeks. At the rate it was going now, it would take him several more weeks, even months, to memorize the seals, and then he had to determine in which order he had to put them, since that changed with every person. So it would be a work of trial and error for Naruto. But he didn't give up, not that he wanted to or that Anko would allow him to, and he was sure that one day he would be able to do that amazing jutsu. Anko was thinking about how Naruto seemed much happier than ever before. He smiled and laughed. He made jokes, and he had even tried to prank her. Trying being the key word. She caught him while he was making his preparations, so he knew he was busted. All she said was better luck next time and went on with whatever she was doing at the time. Naruto had completely thrown away the emotional mask that he wore before and began to be a normal teenage boy who would have a temper tantrum once in a while. But since he was still new at not hiding his feelings, Anko had to repeatedly say that it was okay to disagree or being angry as long as he did it in a respectful way without shouting and throwing things. So far it had gone great. When he didn't agree, he told her so and also presented a counter-argument which they would discuss. Though overall they got along great and disagreements were rare happenings. She also noticed that it wasn't only Naruto that had changed. She found that she herself had changed as well. Ever since they had talked about their pasts, she had been feeling better than ever. Her heart felt lighter than ever, and she liked the feeling a lot. She started to consider Naruto not only as her student but also as one of her friends and one of the people she would protect at all costs. She really liked spending time with him and felt at ease in his company. Usually she hated being around men because most of them only saw her as a next conquest, but Naruto was different. 2 days before the end of the month, Naruto finished his sword and the modified seal for the sheath. He found that modifying the seal wasn't that difficult once he thought about it, but he wasn't about to complain. The sword also had the same seal engraved like his throwing knives, and he had even found a chakra signature seal that only allowed him to draw the weapon. He thought it was fantastic. The sword had exceeded his wildest dreams. When he showed it to Anko, she was impressed and told him that he had done an excellent job once again. He asked her if she wanted one, but she politely refused his offer, saying that she was more of a knife person. His Rasengan was going great as well. It was a matter of days before he would be able to do it. After that he would master it using the Kage Bunshin no jutsu like he did with all his jutsus. Speaking of jutsus, Anko had taught him several Doden jutsu like the Doden Shinju Zanshu no jutsu, the Doden Doryuheki no jutsu. She also taught him a few Suiden jutsu as well. Now he had several Kaden, Doden, Suiden and variations of the Kage Bunshin in his arsenal. He hadn't started on making his own jutsu yet because he first wanted to master all these jutsu and the Rasengan. After that maybe he would start on his own jutsus. Naruto, would you like Sandame to know what was written in the letter? What about the fact that you're learning the Rasengan and Hiraishin no jutsu? It's up to you to decide what I tell him. Anko said, preparing her report for the next day. You can tell him about the letter. I don't mind, besides I'm sure he's worried about how I took it. So tell him what was in the letter, no problem. But don't tell him about the jutsus and that I'm learning them or anything. I want to surprise him later on. Can you imagine his face when I do the Rasengan before his eyes? He won't know what hit him. Naruto said, already seeing his Ji-chan's face in his mind, making a smile appear on his face. Good thinking, Naruto. Glad to see that you still have that mischievous side intact. I can't wait to see their faces when you show them the Rasengan in the Chunin exam. That will be one event I wouldn't want to miss. Anko said, also with a mischievous smile on her face. She loved this kind of stuff and Naruto was a lot like her in that department. She would pay big bucks to be in the front seat for that show. Anko looked at her list of things she needed to bring back for Naruto. First there was the normal grocery shopping, then she needed to get a book on Kenjutsu, several new shirts, new gloves and a belt to put his sword on. Hideki would be pleased, she thought. Saying good night to Naruto, she went to bed so she would be well rested for her trip to the village. Next morning Naruto got up early and told himself that today would be the day that he could perform the Rasengan. He needed to get this done so he could move on the new jutsus if he wanted to impress his Ji-chan. So he went outside, made breakfast for both of them and started on his training. When Anko finished her breakfast, she couldn't help but smile at Naruto's face when she saw him concentrating like never before. Her smile changed to shock when a perfect Rasengan appeared in Naruto's palm. Unbelievable, he had learned an A-ranked jutsu without any help in just a month. She thought. Once again Naruto proved to her that he was nothing short of a genius when it came to practical learning. Naruto on the other hand was moving towards the tree to see what kind of damage the Rasengan really did, so he slammed it right into the tree. When the dust cleared, Naruto and Anko stared at the large hole the Rasengan made in the tree. Wow, if this is the damage the Rasengan does to a tree, imagine what kind of damage it would do to a human being. Naruto and Anko thought while staring at the tree. They looked at each other and started grinning at the thought of using the Rasengan in front of everybody in Konoha. They would freak out, that's for sure. Now that he had proved he could do it, he would master it by using the Kage Bunshin no jutsu in no time. Now he could concentrate on something else like his sealing studies or his jutsu making. Seeing that he was going to try the Rasengan again, she quickly told him that she would see him tonight and left. Naruto nodded and turned his focus back on the task at hand. Now that he had done it once, he should be able to do it again without a problem. Several successful tries later, he deemed it good enough and make a few dozen clones to start mastering it. He wanted to be able to use it without having the need to concentrate for several seconds. In a fight, those seconds could mean life or dead. Seeing his clones practicing, he went to the other side of the clearing and started on making some new throwing knives. He still had lots of metal available, but he decided to use scrap metal to make some disposable throwing knives since you couldn't always collect every weapon you threw in battle. He thought it would be a waste of material if he left his high-quality knives behind on the battlefield, and with the use of the seal, even the knives made from scrap metal would be strong enough. He also had a storage seal he wanted to modify so that he could place it on his holster, and then by channeling a small amount of chakra into the seal, one knife would appear at the time. So that's what he did while Anko was giving her report to Ji-chan. Anko had given her report to a stressed Hokage. He was stressed because he was afraid how Naruto would react when he learned the truth about his heritage. When Anko told him that he had nothing to worry about, he slumped into his chair, releasing a deep breath, immensely happy that Naruto understood his actions. He listened to Anko's report and was very pleased with Naruto's progress. He was looking forward to seeing his adoptive grandson again. He really missed the boy's energetic behavior and the visits Naruto gave him. He also noticed some changes in Anko's behavior and he smiled. Apparently the two had a good influence on each other. After giving her report she quickly bought the necessary food supplies and went to the library to pick up a book on Kenjutsu, and after that she went to see Hideki and bought Naruto some new shirts, gloves and a belt to put his sword on. When Hideki asked why he needed a belt, Anko quickly explained about the beautiful sword Naruto had forged. Hideki told her that Naruto would have to come and show it to him the first chance he got. Nodding, she left the store trying to find Kurenai, who she found waiting for her at their usual spot. They talked for about an hour. Anko telling about the time Naruto tried to prank her, while Kurenai told her about how she had to punish one of her students for peeking into the women's baths at the hot spring. Anko swore she would remember that and told Kurenai that if she caught him peeping on her she would be one student short. Kurenai laughed but still made Anko promise not to kill her student if possible. Anko, what will you and Naruto do after the 6 months of training? I mean, will you do missions on your own or what? Kurenai asked suddenly. I really don't know yet. I haven't really thought about, but now that you bring this up maybe I should start planning for things after the training. Anko said, wondering why she hadn't thought of this before. I have an idea that might work. You know that Hinata, Kiba and Shino are all clan heirs, right? Seeing Anko nod, she continued. Being an heir means that every once in a while they have clan obligations like training with clan members or missions with clan members. This leaves my team incomplete, and because of that we can't do any missions during that time. What if we asked Sandame if you and Naruto could join Team 8? Naruto would be able to fill in for the missing person and he would also learn how to work in a team. And when there's no mission you two could join our team training. You could help me train my students on areas I'm not familiar with like assassination and interrogation. It would benefit all of us. Kurenai finished. You think your students would be okay with that? I mean, they don't know that Naruto graduated, and even though they got along during their time in the academy they weren't the best of friends. Anko said, thinking about her friend's idea. She had to admit she kind of liked it. Naruto needed some friends of his own age as well, she realized. I'm sure they'll be fine, besides like you said Naruto isn't the same Naruto from the academy anymore. And it will allow them to learn from each other as well. Kurenai said, hoping Anko would agree. She would enjoy having her friend around and Naruto would make a fine addition to the team. Fine, I'll discuss it with the Hokage next month. Until then don't tell your students about this. I'm pretty sure he will agree, but best be sure before we make any announcements. Anko said to Kurenai. Kurenai nodded, happy that Anko decided to give her idea a chance. She really wanted to have her friend around because she missed their daily talks and fun. It sounded a bit selfish, but she didn't care. They would all benefit from this arrangement, she was sure of that. After that they talked a little about how things were going in the village. Anko got up and said her goodbyes since it was getting late and she was sure that Naruto would be waiting for her to start diner. She hugged Kurenai and told her that they would meet again next month, same place, same time. Kurenai looked at her friend who was already hopping over the rooftops and couldn't help but think about how much Anko had changed over the past few months. Before, she had been the only true friend Anko had, and it saddened her to see a wonderful person like Anko being so lonely. But now she had really opened up. It seemed Naruto had become a major part in her life, and for that she was very thankful to the young shinobi. The Anko she saw today was a cheerful one like she always was, but now she smiled like never before. It was a smile that seemed to be coming from her heart, and it warmed Kurenai's heart as well. She really hoped they would be able to join Team 8, it would be great, she thought. When Anko arrived back in the clearing she saw Naruto working on his forging and wondered what he was making now. I'm back, Naruto. Did something happen while I was gone? Anko called out to Naruto. Ah, welcome back. Everything went fine. I started on practicing the Rasengan with the help from some Kage Bunshins and did the rest of my exercises as well. Naruto replied, happy she was back. That's good. So what are you working on now? A new sword? Anko asked as she came over to him. No, not a new sword. I decided to make some disposable throwing knives from the scrap metal I received from Hideki-san. Naruto said, putting a newly finished one on the side. Disposable? Why? Is the scrap metal strong enough to make real weapons out of? Anko asked curiously. Well, I figured why make throwing knives out of that high-quality metal when I'm pretty sure I will use them in battle and then lose some of them as well. And yes, normally scrap metal wouldn't be good enough to make weapons from, but you're forgetting the seal that allows to put a chakra casing around it. When using that the weapons will be good enough to use in battle. Naruto explained his reasoning. Good thinking Gaki, now let's have dinner because I'm starving, she said smiling. Naruto happily agreed on having dinner since he was very hungry as well. So they went inside the cave and started making dinner. They spent the rest of the evening inside and relax each in his own way. Naruto took out his book on Kenjutsu and started reading it since he wanted to work on creating his own Kenjutsu style. But in order to do that he would first have to learn the basics, and like everything this would take some time. The next morning Naruto woke up thinking about the past 3 months of his life. He thought about the progress he had made thanks to his training with Anko and all the things he had learned from her. She truly was a wonderful teacher, strict and hard but fair and helpful when needed. Today they would go over his training schedule and see if it needed some adjustments in some areas. She had asked him to think about what he thought could use some more training and what he wanted to learn. His chakra control was taken care of thanks to his clones, and he had mastered almost all the katas in both Taekwondo and Aikido, so now he wanted to combine them into his own style. He would take the moves he wanted from both styles and create his own katas, and that would eventually become the Uzumaki Taijutsu style. Until now they sparred using Taekwondo or Aikido, but they had never mixed the two styles before, so he decided to focus on that this month. He realized that it would take a lot of work to create his own style, but he didn't mind that at all. One other thing he wanted to work on was his Kenjutsu. Now that he had his own sword, he would have to learn how to use it efficiently. Just swinging the sword around was not what he wanted to do. Not only would it be an insult to true Kenjutsu masters, but he felt that if he wanted to do something he should do it correctly. So he wanted to study the basics first, and when he had sufficiently mastered them, then he would make his own style. He realized that he was actually creating a lot of new styles, a new Taijutsu style and now a Kenjutsu style as well. He wondered if he would be able to succeed in all this. In the end it didn't matter, he would do it anyway. It was not like he was on a time schedule or something. If it took him months to complete something, then he would do so without complaining, knowing that when he did finish it he would have done it on his own. With help from Anko, of course. He got up out of bed and prepared for the new day, seeing that Anko was already outside waiting for him to start on breakfast. This had been their little morning routine. Even though Anko almost always woke up first, it was Naruto who prepared breakfast since Anko wasn't much of a morning person to begin with. He wished her a good morning and prepared some coffee for her and started on baking some eggs and bacon for the both of them. Anko happily took the cup of coffee from Naruto and started to wake up. Oh, how she hated getting up in the morning, she thought. She enjoyed lying in a warm bed in the morning, and getting up was the worst part of the day in her opinion. Luckily Naruto was willing to make breakfast for her. She was very grateful for that. Seeing breakfast was ready, she sat next to him and started eating, wondering how she would survive after the mornings after their 6 months training was done. She would miss these delicious breakfasts, she realized. After Naruto told her what he wanted to work on for the next few months, she quickly made a new schedule and got to work. They both realized they had much work to do and little time to do it in. She would help him with his taijutsu, but seeing she knew next to nothing about Kenjutsu, he would be on his own for that, she told him. He didn't let that stop him and told her he was very glad she could help him on his taijutsu. Besides the taijutsu and Kenjutsu training, Naruto would focus on stamina, speed and strength training as well. She also had a few jutsu in mind that she would teach him later on. The last months of training promised to be exiting, and she could hardly wait for the results. She and Naruto would show Konoha what they could do, and the Chunin exams were just the place to do it, she thought. She would have to get good seats so she could see all the shocked faces on those old farts of the council and the other Junin senseis. Priceless, she thought.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.